This is a regular city council meeting. Today is Tuesday, March 12, 2024. It's 9 a.m. And we're in the Public Works building. Tammy, can you call the roll?
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Ms. Hamilton,
Here.
Mr. Welling,
Here.
Mr. Ward.
Here.
All right, we're going to stand for invocation. Followed by
Thanks again for this day, all your blessings. But we don't praise you enough and worship you enough, but Lord, we are thankful. We just ask you to be with us today. We pray that every decision would be ordained by you because you know the way. We thank you and we love you, Lord, in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. We have next on the agenda our consent agenda. These are minutes from February 27th as well as March 7th. Do we have any changes? And do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays? All right, we're accepting those 5-0. All right, other business, February, employee of the month. First up.
Oh,
Hey, Tommy.
wake up, Tom. I'll wake up. Good morning, Mayor, Council.
Good morning.
Come on up here, Nick. I have the pleasure this morning, I'm gonna read something. It may take just a second. Maybe Julie don't time me out. But, I wanna read this, because this just shows the dedication of, Nick. We got this, Mr. Hubbard got an email, he forwarded this to me, and, this is every bit Nick Nicodemus. It said, good morning, I just want to relate the following to you. Yesterday at approximately 4 p.m., I pulled off the road near the El Governor to check my boat trailer. I found one of the wheels had come completely off, the hub and all. As I was struggling to make contact with my auto insurance, Nick Nicodemus, and he said that may not be spelled correctly, pulled up beside me and asked if I could use some help. He was on his way home after work. I told him I was trying to get a hold of my insurance company and figure out where I was going to go from here, what to do. I had already decided I'd probably have to leave the boat and the trailer there on the side of the road. He got out of his truck, took a look at it and said, looks like you need a new hub. I think Kathy's Hardware might possibly have one. The next thing I know, we were in his truck heading to the hardware store. They did not have the right one. He then took me to the marina store, and they did have the right one. Next, he collected all the tools he needed. He went back to my boat and proceeded to install the new hub, mostly by himself because I didn't have a clue. He took that at the end of the day. I was really taking a horrible day, and he turned that around. He said, Nick is an outstanding individual, and I just wanted, y'all to know that. He gave me 2 hours of his time. Please tell him I said thank you again, sincerely, Stuart Guilford. Now, a lot of you may not know Nick personally, but I want to say this. I've had the pleasure of working with Nick ever since he's been here. This guy not only took time out of his day on the way home to help someone on the side of the road, he does that to employees that work here. If somebody has a problem with their vehicle, he will stay over, he will help them, he will take tires to Weewaw Hitchcock to get them fixed. He will do anything to help anybody, and he never asks anything in return. I just want to say, Nick, this is probably the most sincere one of these I've ever gave anybody. I wish I could give you a week off, but I got a certificate for a day. And during the week, you don't have to take the weekend. Also, also another plaque to go on you wall. You're getting several of these. But I'm gonna tell you folks, this is just a great guy. He gives his heart, everything, gives shirt off his back to help anybody. It's my pleasure to be able to present him that, and I know it took a little longer than normal, but this guy deserves this. So, thank you, Nick. You wanna say something?
Only thing I can say is just the way I was raised. It's just the way Dad had me set up, and being in the military, and this is what we're supposed to do for each other
That's right.
as Americans.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Council.
Freeze for a second. Perfect, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you, Tommy. All right, the first thing on our agenda, or next thing, is a discussion of food truck control. I brought this to the table. I had a lot of emails come in, and phone calls, and texts, concerned about our food truck situation. There's apparently was one put between 26th and 27th Street. Then there was apparently a second one was coming in, and their citizens' concerns about it. So I want to bring it to the table, and I want to open it to the community to come and talk about this first, and then we'll talk about it at the table and see if we can come up with some solutions together. Open the floor. Anyone want to talk about it?
What's the problem? You said seek a solution. What's the problem that you're talking about that they're having complaints about?
Okay, so, well, I've had several complaints. We'll start first with, location. When most of the food trucks that have been approved and put in are kind of like in a certain area, okay? Now, it can be on commercial property, and it is on commercial property, but I think there's some concern about parking, where it's located as far as for traffic control. Then, it was brought to this table back several months ago about food trucks, and we were basically told that, the Florida statutes control that, we have no control over it, but that wasn't the whole scenario, okay? We got partial information. Reading Florida statute, we do have some control over this, and I think the council needs to consider how we need to move forward in the future in controlling some of the food truck. There's statutes that says only one food truck on some lots. There's statute that talks about, they must have water, electricity, gas, liquid waste disposal. There's, if there's two or more, they must have the same hours. So this is Florida statute. They must have the same operating hours. They must have separate license. And it actually says in the statute 60 days with a renewal of 60 days. So I know a lot of our food trucks stay a lot more than 60 days, and I don't know how we're in the city controlling that. We were told that we did not have any say-so over it as council, but we do have the authority, and this is what it reads in the statute, the authority to regulate the operations. That's where they can be located in our city, and the hours and other, it even says that we can monitor to make sure they're safe for food dispensing and safe where they're located. So I think that's our obligation as council to make sure that we look at this again. So that's why I brought it to the table. There are some concerns. When you drive into a city, what's the first thing you see? What's the first thing you notice? Not this city, any city. What's the first thing you notice? Something that looks beautiful, trees, well manicured lawns, you know, the beautiful, in our case, the beautiful beach. You really notice beauty first. But if you drive through and things are kind of not as pretty as they should be, or you might not want to stop. You might not want to use that restaurant or use that food truck or use it. You know, I want our city to be beautiful. I want the first impression and the last impression in the city that, you know, we have a beautiful place, other than just on the right side of the road or the left side of the road, depending on where you're coming from. All right, so I will open it up to any citizens' comments or citizens' concerns. Yes, ma'am. Say your name and address.
Nancy Falk, 27th Street. I did write to council about the food truck that showed up at the corner of 27th and 98. There was a residential duplex there prior to the hurricane. The lot is for sale, and I mean, I was outside when it drove up, asked the gentleman who owns this lot. He gave him the name, he called the gentleman said, sure, and he put it on there in a matter of seconds. And then a couple of days later, another one showed up. Now that one didn't stay, it did leave, but it set up there and everything. It is very dangerous on that stretch of land right now, because yesterday, horns blowing because two people pulled out at the same time, almost hit each other, going across, one trying to leave the food truck, one trying to get to the food truck. And unfortunately, the smell, it drifts because of the wind, and it's just not very pleasing. I am not against food trucks, but I do think they need to be in a central location so that you go and make kind of like a food court park, and you can have your choice of where you want to eat, kind of like the food court at a mall. And you can set up your tables. I think the statute also states they can't put out tables and chairs, if I read it correctly. But you know, if you had a food court area, especially if it was city-owned, the city could charge rent. I investigated it through several counties in the state of Florida. All of them have very strict food truck restrictions. All counties refer to mobile food trucks. I could not find hardly any, if any, that were stationary permanently in a spot. All of them were to come in, stay 12 hours, leave. They can come back the next day if they had permission. The city charged for fire department to check them out, for code enforcement to regulate them. And you know, there's just a lot of restrictions. I did forward a lot of the things that other counties did. But I think the main thing here is we need to regulate the number that we allow in our 3 miles of, you know, beach area. Because right now it's double digits if you add in the equipment rentals and all that, and it's just not very pleasing. The aesthetics of it doesn't look good. Let's try to find a place that we all can, you know, be happy with, a place that they can be, that people can go to and enjoy, and then a place that if you ride through, that's not all you're seeing. You ride through. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Carol Panano, Fortner Avenue. In a perfect Mexico Beach, they would buy land and build buildings. However, it's cost prohibitive. I, for one, am happy to see the food trucks here. It means I don't have to get in my car and go to Panama City or Callaway or Port St. Joe. I would rather they were in a building, but I have no problem with the food trucks, and I'm happy to see them.
And I don't think anyone, Carol, is having a problem with the food trucks being here. It's just we'll look at maybe some regulations.
Don't they come under the Department of Restaurants? Is this?
They have to have a food license.
Right.
But it's, you know, we don't license them, we don't permit them.
No.
We don't do any of that. We can charge a fee according to Florida statutes and everything I researched. We could charge a fee. We can regulate where they're located. So central locations or two central locations or, something where, it's not only pleasing to the eye, we-
They're all on commercial property, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
So you
And
would
that
have the same
doesn't-
traffic problem if there was a building there as a food truck.
Yeah, that doesn't say that that we have to permit them to be on that particular property. That's up to the city council of where they can locate.
Well, we need places to eat.
Yes, and I totally agree with that. Totally agree. Yes, ma'am.
Lisa Logan, Maryland. Clint, didn't you just help the city of Fort St. Joe do some regulations with food trucks?
At least a year or so ago, maybe a couple of years ago.
I thought it was more recent. Weren't y'all able to regulate like where they were and keep them off of Reed?
Correct. Every city's a little bit different, and the reasons for regulations are a little bit different. The Florida state statute says, you can't inspect them, you can't issue permits. The Department of Business and Professional Regulation does all of that. But you can regulate where they're at, hours of operation, stuff like that. And the main thing we were worried about in Port St. Joe was down Reed Avenue, there were several vacant lots. And we were like terrified that someone would come in and just stick a food truck in one of the vacant lots on Reed Avenue, basically taken away from our brick and mortar restaurants. So in our regulation, it had to be a commercial property, but it had to be a lot where a business was already in place. That's just one of the things. I know we did, the food truck ordinance here was adopted at the very first meeting I was at. I didn't write it, it was adopted, but I remember sitting here, it was the very first meeting that we had. So that would have been January 22,
Okay.
when City of Mexico Beach adopted its last food truck ordinance.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Lisa.
Tim Linderman, 105 St. Francis. So I appreciate the council taking their time to look at this and take citizen input. I have a recommendation. I think this is the type of issue that I would recommend you get to the planning and zoning board to look at. They haven't actually met in a while, but I think this falls into their job jar, and they could actually do the research, the facts, bring in the staff support, the planning collaborative, the city attorney, and come up with, provide you with what are the facts, what are the issues. And this is a little more complicated. It's complicated as far as, we want food here, but some people believe that's keeping away some of the brick and mortar restaurants. We want the city to look nice, but we also want the food trucks. One of the things I mentioned to Chris, and I'm not saying this is necessarily a good idea, but perhaps some of the property the city owns down by the pier could be used as a food truck area, and that maybe we could allow them to then put tables in some kind of shade. If I lived over there, I probably wouldn't appreciate that. But and nobody wants to live, next to the dog park, example. But I think the planning and zoning board or a special committee like you did with the charter could take a look at this and then allow you to see the facts, and I would recommend that instead of like the city administrator briefing what they did, they come here, they do a written report, and they brief the council and the citizens on what they found, and maybe recommendations, not one recommendation, but a couple recommendations with the pluses and minuses of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Cindy Jolly, Highway 98, 2703. I'm not opposed to food trucks, but I think that when we have a piece of property that previously had a duplex on it, when there's a change of use, I think the citizens and neighbors need an opportunity to express, do I want a business, what type of business? Because it does interfere with the community. It changed the dynamics of the community. We did have several incidents the other day where this particular food truck being in place and the traffic control, it was even more congested than ever. And I mean, that's somewhat a common thing, especially the season right now. We have a few more visitors than we did the week before. But none of us were aware that that food truck was coming in place. I've heard positive things about food trucks. I'm glad that they've been available in the community, especially due to construction, because we need places to eat. And they've served well. I do think the city has an opportunity to determine how many is enough. You know, I mean, do we need to designate an area or a certain limit, just like we designate certain commercial, certain business, certain residential? We look at those percentages of the way we make up our town. And I think we need to consider that. But I do think how rapidly that came in place, from a safety perspective, it was just not a good thing. And there were pedestrians, there were people trying to ride their bikes and golf carts and everything else, and it just really caused a lot of confusion, and it was a safety risk. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Question.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
If the food truck goes onto a commercial lot and commercial businesses are supposed to block themselves from residential, are food trucks then supposed to put up a fence and block? Because I talked to someone on 27th Street over the weekend, and the person said the view of the back end of the operation was extremely upsetting to her. And so that's a good question, because I know brick and mortar has to block. So do food trucks have to put up a fence of some kind to block them from the residential part?
Good question. Yes, sir.
Mayor, council, ladies. The TPC meeting workshop last month, sitting at the table, there was an idea that was tossed out, and I think long-term we all want to see these food trucks turn into actual restaurants. Commercial lots on Highway 98 are right adjacent on a turn. What if any four-story structure, the first floor has to be reserved for a commercial, true commercial use, whether it be a restaurant or a shop? That's
And
it.
actually, we've discussed that. I've discussed that with Laura before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something to maybe think about again. Thank you.
It's gonna lead right into our next agenda item. Anyone else? Okay, we'll close it to the public comments. Let's bring it to the table. Y'all heard the citizens, or we've heard the citizens. I know everybody probably has their own take on and feelings on food trucks. And we're just going to start it right here.
I checked with Kathy Lyons, our code enforcement lady, and she said right now we have five food trucks, and there are 2 more outstanding applications. So that means they're probably gonna keep coming in as the population increases and the hotels are filling up. Another citizen suggested, one central location, possibly Parker Park. If we put them there, they'd be easier to regulate. We could make sure that the certifications were in place, that the licenses that are supposed to be displayed within the trailer themselves. And it could also bring in some revenue for the city. So that could possibly be another option.
I got 2 or 3 things. The central location with being on commercial property is what's gonna be the hardest thing. Do we have a piece of property, Chris? Mexico Beach to the house? 5, not, I think we bought them 4 lots. It's 17 foot wide on 37.
Yeah, it's 0.23 acres total.
Yeah, but I think it was the condo, I think they were 17 foot wide, which I don't think you could get over this. So we really, to me, I don't know of a place, and I'd see Parker Park what we're gonna do if we ever have a function there. Now, we do the market becomes, that's gonna interfere.
No, I think the suggestion of maybe developing a committee of citizens to come up with some plans, if we decided to do it at Parker Park, how they could be arranged with the future plans of the park. If we're gonna do, you know, the bathrooms, we've got the playground, there's the parking lot behind that, would we wanna put them closer to the parking lot where people could come and go, less traffic that would interfere with the activities. You know, we have the farmer's market and different things, but that would be a way to centralize them, keep them off the roads, and be better parking spaces, and it could be some revenue for the city as well. Anything else?
I got a couple more, I'll wait just a minute.
We'd like to hear from you, go ahead.
I'll wait.
Is it about the trucks?
Yeah, that's what we're discussing.
Yes, sir. Can you,
Thanks.
okay, can you? You got anything?
Couple questions just from listening. There is a food truck ordinance. I think we start there. We need to pull the what we have and see what's in it. There should also be a letter from Nick Beninati from before Hurricane Michael regarding the difference between trucks and trailers that I think was used to make that ordinance. That might be helpful. I heard me say we can regulate where and hours, but can we regulate number? Can we have a set number?
I would do it in a different way. I wouldn't just say that there was a set number.
And then how do we pick?
I would put them somewhere where there could only be so many.
And how do we pick who they are? Just when it's full, it's full, so that's something logistically to look at. I really like the screen from view, because I think that would really help 27th Street, for example, because it is a commercial lot, and it's been a commercial lot for years, even though the use was not. So I think screening is important, just like any other business. But yes, the ordinance needs to be where we start, and then trucks and trailers, what the difference is.
Screening would require an update to the LDR.
It would.
Rich?
Yeah, I believe this is split to two issues, one being the rules, the state rules and the local rules. Deal with that, and you might be able to eliminate a few or get ones in there that have quality. The second thing is location to deal with, and minimizing the number. Locations, I think you have a couple different options. There's things we look at. Area maybe at 37th Street where we own property, we can make a change. Parker, we can make a change. I think that as much as we've talked about Farmdale or developers, they've made offers to put in commercial property. If we can move a food truck into that commercial property for a lease or something along there, that's another option. I think there's some things to think about.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. We have how big is the property where the firehouse is? On 14th Street.
I think it's 7,500 or maybe bigger.
It's three?
I think I'm
It's about like 150 by probably 150.
Pretty big,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, you know, I brought this up before because I thought that would be a great place to have food trucks. I know we have water there, we have electricity there. They, of course, have to provide their own liquid waste dispensing. I think we could meet regulations there for the state, and it would give, I mean, that's a big area. We could get a lot of food trucks there, and give people one place to go, a nice variety of food trucks would be in there, I'm sure.
There's also parking.
Excuse me?
There's also
Oh,
parking.
yeah, and extra, yeah, that's what I was gonna say, plenty of parking. I don't think that street is, when you're coming out of it, I don't think there's a lot of, traffic coming from other streets so close to it.
There's residential homes on that street though.
Yeah, and they've got the fireplace, the fire station there, so they've known it's, you know.
But they're not commercially zoned either. But we can change the zoning.
Yeah,
It's about an acre.
I mean, I think if you could, we could even beautify that a little bit and make that a very nice place to have our central location. That would be my recommendation to the council, to consider that we do think about regulating a little more of food trucks as we're growing. And, you know, we want this commercial property on 27th Street is for sale. We want those sales to be hopefully commercial and something go there, yeah, but it could be residential because the way our code is written. And
Is it commercial tourist?
and, you know, I was looking at our ordinance, and it said, and y'all might can help me here, it said that it goes under, the food trucks go under general commercial.
Well, if you look at 27th Street, I think it was mentioned by Mrs. Paul, she had mentioned that it's it's tourist commercial, but it's limited to
The number,
use.
yeah, the number.
You can't put a gas station there, but down on 29th Street, being commercial, you can put a gas station.
So is that general commercial versus, you know?
That's general commercial down at 29th,
But
yes,
not at
versus,
27.
not at
So
27.
really, this truck, according to our ordinance, is probably not even in compliance.
Well, it is in compliance, because on tourist commercial, it says restaurant and, I think, established foods or something along that line.
Open air cafe.
Open air, yeah, open air.
Yeah. Okay, so, but when I read the ordinance and it said to go back to the general commercial, it was for food, for restaurants, but it doesn't, it said it didn't comply with that. It was non-compliant, I think. But, you know, the biggest thing is that we really, I know 27th Street is right now an issue, but I really think it's why I brought this table. We need to really start looking at this as a city for planning and our aesthetics and what we want to happen here. And, you know, we approved the Kayak Beach rental place that was up toward the other food trucks and stuff, and now that one's moved down further. So, you know, I don't know what that lot is. I'm sure it's in compliance, or Chris wouldn't let them move. I'm sure that this 27th Street is in compliance, or Chris wouldn't have approved it. But I think as a council, we need to go back and we need to really think about where we want to go and what we want to do. And these food trucks is one of the first steps in planning.
I think decision-wise on 27th Street, I think we could have taken a little bit more consideration there. Also mentioned by Mrs. Falk was there, prior to there was a condominium, so change of use could have been looked at. And I think maybe we need to delve into it a little bit more when we make that decision.
I have a question. Chris, when they put in application to bring this food truck in, did you already have all the permits and everything from the Florida, that the Florida state provides for those food trucks?
Yes,
There
ma'am.
was something that was missing before that. I mean, they was actually there before they got everything.
Well, they just moved streets. We already had everything from where they were previously located on 36th Street.
Okay.
So
What was with the second food truck that came in and
the
went?
second food truck just moved, and we were completely unaware that it was going there. So code enforcement, once we were notified of it, code enforcement went and contacted them, and they removed it right away.
Okay.
But yeah, we were unaware that that was even taking place.
Question. Based on Florida statute of being 60 days and then a 60-day renewal, so 120 days in one spot, is the ones that are up near where the old grocery store was, there's like 3 on one area there, are they considered permanent?
No, they're
And-
not. No food truck's considered permanent.
So they've been there more than the 120 days, so how are we controlling that?
Well, right now, we're not controlling it. I'm not sure about the 60 days. I mean, I know what you're talking about in the ordinance, I'm not sure if it applies to the situation that we're dealing with.
So if the state of Florida specifies 60 days with one 60-day renewal, otherwise it's considered permanent, it moves to their permanent. And they require them to do other things for the permanent.
Is that
And that's-
motorized?
Where it's talking about that, they're just talking about where restaurants have been destroyed by natural disasters. And then they put in a food truck to replace the stilt-built restaurant.
It's in their general, under that, but I think that we need to really take in consideration as a council what changes might need to take place, because apparently this was back in 2022, did you say?
It was the very first meeting I was at.
Yeah.
It was sort of in January
January
22.
22.
Over a
So,
couple of years.
A lot of things changed from 22 to 24. You know, I mean, we've had a lot of changes for the first part of 22 to 24. Thankfully, we have a new restaurant opening too. And then I think the property that's next to Mango Marley's is possibly going to sell for a brick and mortar restaurant. So we're moving in the right direction. But I think we need a whole lot more planning for our food trucks. We don't want to lose our food trucks. It gives our tourists and us a variety of stuff to eat. So I like the variety, and having that opportunity for our visitors as well. Not just having 2 or 3 restaurants and them having to wait hours to get into those restaurants. So what's our plan?
I think we need to start with an ordinance. We're talking about something we don't know what it looks like since it's not here. And just looking at the LDC, it is an allowable use in tourist commercial and general commercial. It is not prohibited.
But when, in the ordinance, it took me back to the 2.02 point something, or 202 point something, I think where you're at right there. And it did say general. It didn't refer me back to any other
That's number
section.
C under tourist commercial.
Okay. So the ordinance probably needs to be looked at anyway if it's not referring back to both of those areas. So there's a flaw in that ordinance. And probably more than one.
I know it's not public time, but I would really like to see something as, if there is a change of use on these lots, that the community, neighboring community within so many feet are at least notified
I
before
think that's in
something's
our
approved.
ordinance and something, that we, a change of use
I
has to
mean,
be.
I think general makes a lot of things
Yeah.
vanilla,
Yeah,
but,
I understand.
you know, we need time to specifically put something in place that will slow it down and get some feedback from the community, the neighbors.
I agree. Thank you. So council's heard everyone's recommendations, some great recommendations, guys. I appreciate y'all's discussion with us. So do we want to bring this back, look at the ordinance? Do we want to let planning and zoning look at it?
I think selecting a committee would be the best approach to give us information.
Since this is a major citizen concern,
Yeah.
And some of the folks are considering the possibility of a central location, I mean, wouldn't that eliminate a lot of the concerns about what each piece of property allows and doesn't allow? If we as a city decided we want it to be a central location, we bring it to some place like Parker Park, it can be closer monitored by code enforcement, we can make sure they have the proper licenses in place, we know there's adequate parking there. And then at some point, if we develop more land on the 27th Street and the pier develops and we want to develop that into a town center, it can always be changed from Parker Park to there. But I think the citizens, as a consensus, really would like to see some type of central location rather than each time it crops up, somebody else moving to a different lot and the issues that come up individually with that. If we could possibly think in terms of, as a city, we've made the decision, it's going to be a central location. If you want to do a food truck here, this is the way it's going to be done.
And with that, we just have to be careful of following our comp plan and individual property rights as well, because we have property owners that own a lot and have a business on that, their own personal lot. So we have to be careful of that too.
I mean, we do have one business that has been established here prior to Hurricane Michael. You know, that is a business that is a tradition as much as Toucans That adds to the tradition of this town. It has a long history here. That's a family-owned business. They've been good to the community with the Hungry Tummies, and they've been very supportive of this community the whole way. So I would see that maybe as a grandfather clause possibility for them.
Agreed.
Yes. Yep, so that, you know, I really like the idea, you know, and Parker Park could be where we could say, yeah, we can have food trucks there, limited to like 2 or 3, and that could even help our events. You know, if we have events there, then they would.
I don't agree with the limited, because right now we have 5 trucks plus 2 more are applying. We don't know how many more are gonna keep applying.
Well, I was gonna say, we could limit Parker Park, but we could consider, and I hope we will, consider the large area on 14th Street. And nothing restricts us from really doing that. We can't use the building per se, do anything with the building right now.
Well, zoning currently restricts us 100% from doing that. But we have to change our zoning, which we can do that, but that's hurdle number 1, because it's public institutional.
Right.
I think we're spending a lot of time on where I think we know we need to go, and that's form a committee, get some information, make a decision.
So I got a recommendation on a committee, is let people put in applications. And let's look at people's qualifications. You know, have they been in some type of design, planning? I don't think getting out and just us picking 4 people, 5 people like we did with the other committee is gonna give us what we really need. I've got a lot of hands waving. Can we go out to the, let me get the gentleman in the back first. State your name and.
I'm George Haas, I'm owner of Tex Kitchen.
Okay.
So I'm the one with the 3 trucks
Okay.
on a commercial property.
Okay.
I've been in business in 2018, ever since Hurricane Michael hit. I understand the tragedy and everything. I moved everything over here. It wasn't easy coming into Mexico Beach because it was really tough. At the time, the guy, I think his name was Michael, or I think that was, a bigger guy. He left for I don't know what reason. But anyways, he's the one that brought me in. Everybody wanted me here. I was building a business up here and everybody loved the food. Now I got all of my stuff established there at a commercial property. Everybody's loving me, everybody's loving everything. My buddy, Killer Seafood Mike, he owns all that. He's been there a long time. So yes, he should be grandfathered in. Don't know what really the issue is here. If it's, from what I'm hearing, it seems like a food truck issue. I would just restrict it. Leave the ones that are here now, let them build something, because I think that is going to be something big in the long run. You know, I know people want restaurants and this and that. I do want to build a restaurant. I do want to build something, but I need enough support for me to do something like that. That costs us a lot of money. But I think you should just restrict the people that are coming in here and just leave it as is and apply your rules and whatever it is like it was to me. Everything had to be by code and everything, and I did that. So in a food truck world, it's actually kind of considered to be kind of like a restaurant, as long as you follow the rules by the state. And that's just how it went. So yeah, my business is all tied in how the way it's supposed to be with the state and here in the rules of Mexico Beach. And I think a situation like that you guys are kind of saying about food trucks coming in, as I think you should just probably restrict the ones that are trying to come in here. And if there is somebody that wants to try to come in here, I mean, I would say build an area like you guys are saying, like a park. You know, you can probably make a food truck out. They have that in Panama City. They'll set them up at a park and then, hey, you know, this 3 days, whatever, we got 4 or 5 food trucks, come check it out, for the whole community to come check it out. They do that a lot, or I think maybe that's something, if a lot of trucks want to come this way, that's something you can probably push to do that. But I think the ones that are here now, like myself, we're trying to build something here for everybody, for the community. And if it's something like, oh, this food truck looks not that great, I think, like myself, we built like some kind of a gate or like a background so people cannot see from what's going on. We're making it livable but still nice, you know. And like I said, you know, I'm trying to build something nicer for everybody, and hopefully it'll come to that. And that's pretty much about it, guys. I just want to say that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
One thing to add to that is where he is was actually a design plan by Mr. Kent that was approved to be a food truck park. So that was actually drawn out and designed and brought to the council 5 years ago as a food truck park, and then only one was there, and now I think there's 3. So Mr. Kent had an approved sketched plan somewhere.
Yes, sir.
You don't like my shirt?
Let us see it.
John Harrell, 43 First Street, last house in Bay County. As far as a special committee, I think it was Tim that mentioned it. We have a committee. It's called Planning and Zoning. Give it to them and let them investigate it, because I think that's what they're charged with, is ordinances, planning, and zoning. Let them present it to the council. If council's not happy with it, then you can go back and form a special committee, but I don't think you need to, because they have these people already vetted, already in there, waiting for something to do, because they've canceled the last 2 meetings, so I guess nothing's come up for them to look at. We have the committee.
So I'm gonna add to that.
Sure.
Okay, that's where I was going. We have a committee, but we need to get a few more citizens' involvement in it, I think, as far as looking at everything, because
Their meetings are open.
the people that sit on planning and zoning, and I've been there, we usually focus on the codes and the ordinances. We need people that want to come in and talk. I mean, what's with not having using them and having a planning, input from some citizens?
Well, I think my suggestion would be advertise it. Come to the planning and zoning meeting. Put your input, your concern. Come to the meeting. Tell them what you
John,
think.
we're here.
I'm not, but she's wrong. I apologize. Thank you. So that's what all I'm saying.
Yeah.
We have a committee. We don't need to form another special committee, is my suggestion. And if the results from that are not to you guys' satisfaction, because you're the final say, not planning and zoning, the council, then let's go back and say, okay, we need to broaden it. Do we have to have a workshop, But use the people that we have, they're in the position, and it's in their title, planning and zoning. That's all I'm saying. Just consider it, please. Thank you.
Well, as you know, a lot of times when you have people with concerns, sometimes they don't all come out and to every meeting, like planning and zoning. I mean, you rarely, I know when I was on there, we very rarely had a very big group in there to discuss. That's why I was recommending just having some extra people, the citizens come in, give ideas, concerns, kind of brainstorm as a larger group than just the ones that know the planning and zoning codes.
So, Tim Linder, 105 St. Francis. So maybe a way to accomplish that is using planning and zoning board, and you could select individuals with some expertise and make them part of an advisory group for that particular thing. But we were both on the planning and zoning board. I think there's a lot of good people on there
Good
that are
knowledge.
familiar with the zoning rules, and that, as my opinion was, that board has been mostly a zoning board. Let them do some planning. If we don't have the right people on there, recruit the right people.
I think we're a couple people short on there, aren't we, Chris?
Just the alternates. Just the alternates, but,
That may get us some extra people that may be interested in getting,
and
being an alternate.
as far as getting input, there are other ways to get input, and I would talk with the Planning Collaborative, for example, and use their expertise. But there may be, we could set up a website, we could use the city's an email address or a box to go to provide input. But there are more ways to get input, and I think it's limiting if we just, the people that are able to come, who want to come, try and figure out a way to get input from more people in the city. I think people are interested, some aren't, but come up with other ways to allow input into the city.
Yes, sir.
Kurt Warfel, Mexico Beach, 30th Street. Just a little brainstorming, it's gonna be a little off the wall, but I keep hearing Parker Park. Food truck court there, put a Mexico Beach public pool there. Rectangular shape, Olympic length, not quite as wide, trucks go around the peripheral. If successful, start turning it into structures, if it's environmentally viable. There.
All right. Yes, Michael.
One moment, please. Michael Scoggins, Killer Seafood, and other various addresses around the city. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for the respect and the trust you put in me to run my business for 20 years here. I agree with everything Tex said about the future businesses coming in. They need to be regulated. Where are you going to put them? If there's room for more trailers in here. Everyone who's operating a business now is doing so under what they see as the statutes that tell them what they are to do. These statutes, you stated, everybody's pulled out statutes out of their wazoo, but that's cherry picking, and all of those are ambiguous at best. You can pick the one that fits your narrative all day long and argue your point. It's a matter of how it's going to come out in the future. Right now, as I said, everybody here is doing via electricity, sewer taps, the gas hookups, whatever. They're in a commercial spot that has the access to it, I'll say, except for one caveat, the taco truck that has just moved. I agree that is in a spot that's, not and concurrent with its former use. Every other spot has had a commercial business on it for this, from what I know. So that's...
And that, it's a good point. That might be something we say, well, in our ordinance, it had to have a previous business there.
Yeah, and in future developments, I don't know if there's enough room for another food truck or a court to do that. You mentioned something about changing the zoning for a spot to be somewhere. Is it that easy to change the zoning? I mean, hell, if you can do that, that whole area behind Gulf Foods is a zone residential. I guarantee you Chris King would love to have that zone commercial. I guarantee. So, if you change zoning, get to work on that one. Thank you.
All right. So, what do we want to do from here? Do we want to let some citizens get involved, planning and zoning pick it up, get citizens involved, have some workshops and
We can do both.
start with,
We can go planning and zoning route and encourage 2 more people to apply and get on that board. There you got 7 people. There's 2 openings.
I would like to get the citizens' comments and their feel and not just totally focus on the planning and zoning rules. I mean, there already are issues here as to the problems that result from the food trucks being here. So rather than it just be the legality of what planning and zoning will probably focus on, I would like to develop a committee of citizens. They don't have to have any special talents, in my opinion. I think they just need to have the interest and concern about the food trucks. We're going to have more. You might have 5 now and 2 more with outstanding applications, but I think we're going to have more and more people that apply, and it's going to create more and more issues and problems for the citizens.
I'd like to see some business people get involved.
Well, if we open it up to a committee, then that's their choice, if they want to be on the committee, plus the input from the planning and zoning. I think that could both be good resources.
Did you have anything else, Mr. Smith? You said you had a couple of things.
I didn't answer.
Oh, okay. So, I think we need to charge at least start by charging the planning and zoning to set up a special meeting, make sure citizens are very aware of that meeting and have input into that meeting, and let them look at the planning part of our city as well as ordinances, what kind of changes we want to make in the ordinance, and let them bring that to the council.
How do we want to do that as far as, I think Mr. Scroggs makes an excellent point, and the guy from TK. They've been here, they're on commercial property, it's not a thing that they didn't move, you know, to a residential area that's tourists that had a condo. I mean, there's a difference here, and I think that we can make a decision to find out what we do for the future. But we have people that are in place right now and been there for years, like Ms. Hamilton said, Killer Seafood. Can we give them some comfort and say, we're fine with the commercial property there is, let's look at future trucks?
I would think that we would want to base our ordinance on looking at the whole picture. And if that ordinance says that, if we bring new ordinance in, that ordinance says that the current food trucks that meet all the criteria are in place, are grandfathered in, and if we agree with that part of the ordinance, we would do that. I think you have to look at it as, when you make an ordinance, it's a law. And we need to look at how we want our laws to be in general on this, not cherry pick.
But to be clear, grandfathering in what's here now allows it to stay at 27th Street, correct? Okay, just making sure everybody understands that.
And that's where the issue is.
It may not be
We're
in
looking at a
compliance
commercial residential area.
So I'm gonna leave that in, I'm gonna close this. Send it to planning and zoning, is that what we agree, guys? Let's send it to planning and zoning, see what they come back with. You know, maybe they wanna do some workshops with citizens, come back with some good ideas.
What is our task here? Are we saying that we're gonna allow the current commercial trucks to stay?
Well, I think that would be something planning and zoning needs to talk about.
As of right this minute, we're gonna follow the ordinance in place, and yes, nothing
Right.
changes.
Yeah, nothing changing right now, it's what we need to look, you know, is this one in compliance though? If we think that this one is not compliant, then we need to make sure they move.
I just don't want the committee to come back and say, well, we looked at this and we wanna move all the trucks in one area. That's not fair to the people that are in place right now.
I think everybody's, when you look at the difference, I'm just saying, when you look at the difference of Michael's place and even Mama Jama's and the difference in the 27th Street place, and there's a big difference. Yes.
Right.
There's a big difference. You can't blanket this.
Actually, there isn't. Bad Mama Jamma is currently built on a duplex lot that had no commercial business on it. It is exactly the same as 27th Street.
It was used as a rental business, yes.
It was used as a business.
So was the
Different
duplex was
use.
rented too.
Still a different use.
Flammable as business.
Yeah.
Restaurant use is different.
So 27th Street and Bad Mama Jamma's lots are exactly the same. That's what I'm trying to say. They are the same. They were not the same use as they are now. That restaurant was not a restaurant before where Bad Mama Jamma is.
Why are we allowing that? I mean,
That's what I'm
the
saying,
deal. I
is,
mean,
you know, we're
if
trying to
it's
say
the
they're
same, why do we
okay,
keep allowing
but
things
27th
that aren't
Street's not.
supposed to happen?
Just like we have moratoriums to help manage until we can get planning and zoning things, or ordinance and zoning in compliance, then why can't we just slow the food truck situation? We're not saying we don't want them, we're just saying we want to prepare the best environment for it to work well in our community and for the business. We want every business to be successful in our community, but it's gonna have to be certain standards. Those that went through Hurricane Michael contributed, I know.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's
I'm
fine.
so sorry. Because I feel like you speak,
You
I need
did.
to let Tim speak and I need to let Lisa speak. And then we're gonna close this and the council needs to make a decision. And I love y'all's input. That's why I brought it here. Great conversation. Some decisions at the table need to be made on how we're gonna move forward. And maybe Mr.
I just want to recommend, give whoever you're going to give this to, the planning and zoning board, give them the specific task I would recommend you start with identifying the problem, if there is a problem, and then you can talk about
That's
how
what
to
we need.
solve the problem, if it's zoning, if it's grandfather. Have them identify the problem. We don't even know what the problem is for sure.
Well,
if
that's
there even is a
exactly
problem.
why I want citizens to be very, very involved in that planning and zoning.
To perhaps give Killer a little encouragement here, Adrian, help me remember this. When we first started the ordinance for the food trucks, we differentiated between food trailers, which is Michael, and food trucks, and he is not actually part of the discussion on food trucks because he's not mobile. I mean, not like a truck. So did we change that and just call it all food trucks?
That's the Beninati letter I referred to that we need to find. That was trucks and trailers.
Yes. So that,
I don't know that we have any trucks though, do we? They're all trailers, aren't they?
yeah. So we didn't differentiate at the end?
Well, we might have, but all the ones that are here are all trailers.
Okay.
So thank you again for everyone's input. And I would highly encourage everybody in the audience here today, as well as those viewing online, get involved, bring your concerns, your recommendations, and I'm sure people have got some great recommendations out there, bring to the planning and zoning or wherever we end up going from here. So how do we want to tackle this?
So I guess we could make a motion to turn it over to the planning and zoning, and hopefully citizens will come and participate in those meetings and give their input.
So we want to task the planning and zoning committee to look at our ordinance, current ordinance, look at Florida statute, make sure that we are within Florida statutes on this as we rewrite an ordinance possibly. And
Hopefully get that old legal opinion too.
yeah, okay, we can see if Chris can pull that legal opinion, make sure the planning and zoning gets that for us.
That old one, you know, Florida statute came after that, and it kind of really changed the way everything is, food trucks are regulated in municipalities, so I don't know how much that's gonna really help.
I think just basically we have as a municipality, authority to regulate the operations. So that's where and how they operate. And I think we need to look at that and make sure. So any other thing you would throw into the task for the planning and zoning?
I mean, I just wrote down, I mean, I'd like them to look at the rules and the locations of future trucks in Mexico Beach and commercial property versus tourist commercial.
Anything else, anything you want to task them with?
And do we want to limit the amount of food trucks that will eventually be here?
I think if we can get a food truck location designated, maybe we designate that up where Michael and, I'm sorry, sir, I forgot your name.
Tex Kitchen, or Tex.
What's your first name?
I go by Tex.
Tex, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, Tex and Michael are that location, maybe, food truck location. We might want the city, again, where the firehouse is. So large, off the beaten trail, but still close enough to Highway 98. They could have a sign out there and people would know where it's at. So I really think that we need to make sure that we're looking at the whole picture, not just pieces of it, okay? Now, do we know if this current 27 situation, what do we know about it and how we can help with this? I know it moved from one place to another, why?
I have no idea, I mean, they don't have to tell us why they moved.
Okay.
They just-
So, do you think this lot is compliant?
If Bad Mamma Jam was compliant, this is compliant. There was a residential structure there as well, prior to the storm.
And I think on the 27th Street location, there's concerns about parking because people are pulling right off the highway.
And I was gonna ask
I don't
that.
know if we need to put up signs or something to keep that from happening, because that certainly is a It's a dangerous situation.
If it's a safety issue, revisit it. I mean, as a city, we ought to be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I think, just think about it. We regulate if a restaurant can be built by how many parking places they have. Why can't we regulate where these food trucks be based on some parking? I mean, that should be an issue, you know, because that is an issue. If you have the area, it's not just about,
Brought up the parking on food
Yeah.
trucks months ago.
yeah, I think we need to look at that close. That needs to be tasked as parking. It needs to really be on there. Safety, site, you know, if we look at, I think on Fifth Street when we were talking about, they were gonna put whatever they were gonna put there, we were talking about the sight lines, and we need to know that their sight lines are good. I mean, there's lots of ordinance there that already in place that would take care of this.
Like the tables at each of these restaurants, if we have a table seating requirement for sit-down restaurants, why don't we enforce on food trucks? That's what I brought up months ago, and that went nowhere.
They can't have
Actually, the Florida statutes look at food truck not having seating.
Yeah,
It
can't have them.
It says including seating.
So, how are we regulating, you know, how many tables can they have, or can they have tables? I mean,
Think
most
that'd be up to
food
you
trucks,
guys.
huh?
You can regulate.
Yeah.
Part of that ordinance.
That's part of, you know, what we can,
So you got for a motion or no?
Only thing you
I
can't
think
do
it's
is
just-
say food trucks can't come to Mexico Beach.
Right.
That's the only thing you can't do.
Right.
right, exactly.
So you asking for a motion or?
I don't think we have to have a motion, we're just gonna task P and Z to bring us something.
We want the beginning of the task, you wanna start? Ready?
Okay,
A start date, did you say? I'm
No,
sorry.
are you ready to put something formally that we're gonna work with?
Yeah, that's why I'm sitting here right now going, let's talk, what do we wanna task them with? And
Okay,
we'll
I'd
make a
suggest
list.
that we look at the rules and the location for future trucks, food trucks in Mexico Beach. We look at the parking, the safety, and sight lines, along with commercial versus tourist commercial.
Right, wanna add seating and,
I think that's included in the rules. The rules are given by DBPR, which is,
Department of Business and Professional Regulation.
Business and Professional Regulations, exactly. And they treat it as a restaurant, basically. And you have to have managers that are trained, food managers, food handling managers, I mean, there's a lot to it.
yeah, the ordinance as far as placement of food trucks and what their requirements are as far as licensing, permits and everything. That's a lot, and this is something that's more business related. So are we looking at we wanna look at business related? Cause they'll need to know
The
that.
Florida statutes are set, we need to look
Right.
at Mexico Beach's rulings.
Right, okay, so that are ordinances and, okay. Yeah. I just want to clear that up, because Florida statute versus the business
Correct.
versus what our ordinance actually says now.
We're gonna look at ours.
Yeah, okay. All right. So we've got that, planning and zoning is going to bring us back. Looking at planning our city for food trucks. The current, as well as, you know, looking at current as well as future placement. And then all the caveats to that as far as seating, parking, safety, and that. We're good? Is everybody in agreement?
Did we also say possible limitation of food trucks? Is that also?
I think if we can get them to bring us a place, you know, a location that will limit your number of food trucks.
And then also concerns regarding the different types of licenses and how that is monitored. There's going to have certain licenses on display within that truck. And so is that, that would be something else I think we need to be keeping a closer eye on to make sure that's.
And that would be code enforcement. And the Florida statute does allow code enforcement to monitor those things and, the fire, to monitor for safety, fire safety on these trucks. I think we're already set there in that case, but we might need to put in our ordinance exactly how we want them to plan to make sure these, like, is it gonna be every 90 days, every 6 months, how are we gonna plan for them to monitor that? So I think this is a good discussion. I think we're leading in the right direction for this. So I wanna go back one more time. Is there anything we need to, task Chris with, is looking at 27th Street, food truck versus, based on the citizens' comments that we had?
And Chris, you've taken notes, so are we good with the list or maybe or something we could look at?
I mean, as far as I know, everything, as far as that food truck's concerned, it's in compliance.
What about safety? Safety?
I mean, I'm not there to monitor safety. I mean, I can talk to the sheriff's office and they can increase their patrols there.
What we're doing is tasking the P&Z, so we just want to give them some list of things that we do.
And
I'll give Chris a list if everybody wants to just add to it and give him a list and let him compile it.
I think that we need to do a time frame on this as well. I think we need to put some kind of time frame with when we want planning and zoning to have this back to us. Otherwise, I'm afraid it's just gonna fall in the crack and we don't want this in the crack. So, it's gonna take some time, but if they want to meet more than one time in a month, they can. If they wanna call some workshops, we can make sure.
It might be nice to consider doing that before the Memorial Day crowd comes. We can set that.
They already here.
You're right.
So, do you want to say we need it back by
May 1st.
May 1st, or our first meeting in May?
I will tell you, the next planning and zoning meeting is Monday, April the 1st at 6 o'clock.
Okay, so I would say that they, if they want to call a meeting, you can let them know that they can call a meeting. If they want to do a workshop, they could call workshops, and they can work on this more than just one day a month. Okay, so our first meeting in May, we won't have something back to us for this. All right? All right, so any other discussion about food truck? Food truck ordinance? Okay, let's move on to the next agenda item, which is really kind of entwines with this. This is a discussion on planning and development in our cities. I want to start out by asking Chris more about, to share with the council more about what has gone on with Laura and that group for planning.
They had their first meeting, and Laura and her team has been working on that issue. They've scheduled the second visioning, and then that's going to be on April the 2nd at 5 p.m. and it's going to be here at the Public Works Building this time. And what they'll do there is they're going to bring back their draft with all of the input from the citizens that they received at the first meeting.
Okay.
And anything that they've added to that since the first visioning meeting. And then the citizens and whoever participates in the meeting that night will have the opportunity to recommend any changes to the draft. And once that draft is completed and finalized, it will be submitted to the state for final approval.
Okay, so where do we play a part in this?
Well, to come back to the council before that, but it's going to go to this, they're going to have the second visioning statement, or second visioning meeting first.
And that has to go, and then that's meeting the criteria for the grant,
Yes.
right? That's why you're talking about going to the state. Okay, so before it goes to the state, it comes to us for approval?
Yes.
Okay, and when will that be?
Should be the first meeting in April.
Okay. Okay, so with planning and development, we talked a lot today about that already, just talking about food trucks. And we do have this gonna come to us in April apparently about what I really am concerned about is the development part. You know, our planning and development, but developments here. We know that we have a fragile sewer system. We know that, and I'm gonna ask Chris this because I don't know the answer to this. The sewer, when they first brought in sewer, and water, I think we had some kind of debt that was incurred on that. How are we with that debt? Has that been paid off?
No, we're still paying on that debt.
I thought we were. So we pay who for that?
The state.
The state? The USDA? Okay. So where are we in the planning of, and I'm assuming this was some of the line that's going out through Tyndall, that Mr. Davis has said that it's going to need to be replaced in the future. How are we planning to replace that in the future?
Before he answers that, can I just add some information? I talked with the Bay County City Administrator and asked some questions of his public works people, supervisor, and a couple other guys. And I think we got some misinformation on the 25 years for the pipe. That pipe is and I don't have that information, I know we're talking about sewer, but we were told 25 years. That pipe was put in 97, I think, something like that, 97, somewhere around there. And one of the guys that actually put it in was part of it, was there when I talked to him. And that pipe is a 390 or 309, what is it, 399 pipe. And the life expectancy on it is anywhere between 50 to 100 years, not 25.
Okay, well that's good information to know.
Very good.
Absolutely. I'll follow up on that because I actually talked to them over there too, and that's not the same information I was.
I'll give you the name of the guys that I talked to.
Okay. So we still have to plan for the future. We have to plan for the developments. So this discussion is where do we want to be? And I know that a lot of citizens came, but do we want to consider a moratorium on PUDs right now and get a good handle on our infrastructure? He's hoping you'll answer him. Yeah, Adrian's looking at you.
I was looking at
Oh.
Clay.
So, without planning for development, we're gonna, in the future, it might not be even in my lifetime, I don't know. But if we don't start planning for the future of our infrastructure, we're gonna be in trouble in Mexico Beach. I look at some places, and I'm just gonna give an example, Peachtree City, because I used to live over that area. Their planning started from day one, and the plan that they have, that city looks now, they had awesome planning for golf cart community, planning for the future, planning on how they were gonna get from one side of the road to the other even, with bridges. And Mexico Beach is only a 4 square mile area. I think we could do a lot better planning in this area. So I just wanted to bring it to the table. Do we want to consider slowing down our development a little bit and looking at our infrastructure a little closer and making better, until we get this plan that Laura's working on, we'll get this plan that for our food trucks, we're, start planning a little bit, put a more, not on building, but on developments, temporary. Is that anything anybody would want to consider? Because I think we need to consider it.
I think that is something to really be thinking about since we are so concerned about the infrastructure. I mean, there's been discussions on that previously.
Define the difference in building and development.
Okay, building is I'm gonna go build me a house because I bought a piece of property over here and I'm gonna build it my house. And I'm gonna meet all the building codes and everything. Development is bringing large communities in,
Okay, define large.
okay? More than one house,
Okay.
you know? I mean, it.
The
I mean,
only
let's be
moratorium
reasonable.
I would support is one that stops everything, including decks, roofs, everything, because everybody should be penalized equally, and it's again back to individual property rights.
And I don't think that's penalizing development.
Because we've been talking about infrastructure problems for 6 months, and we've made 0 steps to look at it, so I don't know what
Well,
we're gonna
that's
look at by a moratorium.
First step here is we're looking at where we're at with our food trucks. Where are we at with our infrastructure is the second step. If we don't start looking at it now, and development impacts us more than a house does. We already have lots. We know what those lots are. We know what the infrastructure are for those lots that are already there. What we don't know is the future of development here, back here, down there. So we need to consider this, because we get, a developer comes in, let's just take 45 houses out on the west end. Developer comes in and they're wanting to put this, and then we're expected to provide sewer, water, and services, okay? We get tax money from that to do that, and all's well. But if we cannot provide them with sewer and water that isn't going to end up costing or impacting our city and infrastructure, then there's a problem. There's not good planning there. So we gotta be able to look them in the face and say, yeah, we can provide you that, no problem. So we already looked last time that we were gonna be down with the development down to like a little over 6,000 gallons of waste sewer. So how can we plan better so that we don't get to that point? What do we do? What do we need to look at? I think we need to look at it. And I'll bring it to the table and we can discuss it and be realistic about it tonight. But we have, our small community does have an issue right now with planning and development, and we need to slow it down. And I think the first step is to stop the development, slow it down, put a moratorium on it, temporary moratorium, doesn't have to be. Let us get Laura's input, let us look at some planning, other planning, let us talk to Bay County, let us talk to our departments here, and really come together and really have a bird's eye view, not these little, oh, well, this over here and this over there. Let's have a bird's eye view of this development, of our 4 square mile city. And it might not be popular to a developer, but it's popular and needed for our city. We are here for our city, not for development. Do you?
I keep looking at Glenn, I keep waiting for Glenn to chime in.
Glenn, you're welcome. You're welcome to say anything you want to, sir.
I think it was a misunderstanding on this, what is it, 25, 30 years from the life expectancy of the plant, it was a plant as a whole, it wasn't specifically the pipe. One of the things we looked at the pipe, we were having numerous breaks in the 14-inch force main. I believe I'd mentioned to y'all that we went back and brought a contractor in. They adjusted the soft starts on the motor so they don't ramp up and put water pressure on it. Since we've done that, we haven't had a break. It's not to say that we won't. But the ground shifting, and one of the things to remember, this is sewer and it has solids and there'll be potential for sand. I don't know that we've had the scouring effect on the line, but since he's changed that, as far as, soft start, everything has been good. I think maybe the biggest thing you might want to look at is our pumps don't run continuously, which tells me that the pipe will handle more capacity. That would be an engineering question.
Yeah. So we already determined maybe the pipe is better than we thought, first off. That's this pipe.
Twice as good.
Yeah, but that's not taking care of, that's not a whole picture of our infrastructure in our city. That's one pipe that we're talking about, and that's fine.
It's a main line.
It's the main line, but,
Yeah.
you know, our sewer system, we don't know what at best broadband, has done to it, because we know we've had a lot of water breaks, and the engineer from Dewberry actually called us and said, you know, if they're breaking water, they could be breaking your sewer, and then you won't know it for months.
This is the force main that we're talking about now, the 14 inch.
No, I was talking about in the city, just getting to that point.
I thought we were specifically talking today about force main carrying it out.
No, it's like the whole picture. It's what we're really need to focus on.
Also, we've got that 18 inch coming this way. Providing our water, we've had little or no trouble at all since I've been here with it.
Right.
I think we can take a wait and see attitude. I think we did some good as far as the 14 inch going out.
Oh yeah, that sounds like if that was causing an issue and we fix that issue, that's awesome.
They hope they have.
Knock on wood. Okay. All right, yeah, so I can open it up to comments, Lisa. Nobody else? Let's talk, I guess.
Lisa Logan.
Hey, Lisa.
We have been begging for a development plan for 20 years. We've never had one as a city. We see the results of that. So anything in the line of a development plan is only going to be an advantage. But you remember that a development plan is not just about building houses. It takes in the entire scope. It's developing commercial areas, rebuilding the old commercial areas if that's what we need to do. Land use, it takes in all of the infrastructure, which includes how do we handle the enormous amounts of traffic for us that we're getting in. It takes in city services like garbage pickup, fire, police. All of that goes into a development plan. And you have to remember, when we put the sewer system in, and I talked to the man who was our city administrator at the time, he was also an engineer, and he and I discussed this over a number of years, multiple times. The city, when the city laid out the sewer system, plus a lot of other services, they never in their wildest imagination thought that the city would build vertically. Condominiums did not exist in Mexico Beach or anybody's thoughts. Townhouses did not exist. So the planning went out the window as soon as we started building, and we've never come to grips with that. It behooves us to slow everything down, as we have been begging the councils since the hurricane especially, and look at this, because we have to take into account our wetlands and floodplains. We have allowed developments to come into the wetlands areas. 3 square miles, the 4th square mile being St. Joe, but the 3 square miles of original Mexico Beach, it's all interrelated. So you cover up a wetland here, you're going to affect the center part or the other part of town. That all comes under development. So it's not just about building, which yes, needs to be slowed down. And you have to look at all of the ones who have development orders but have not started. How is that going to affect everything? So it's a massive issue. It's got to be determined, but it's got to take all of that into place.
Exactly. So yeah, again, we need a bird's eye view. We don't need to pick and choose. We need to go back and look at everything. And I think the best way to look at our infrastructure, look at our development, our building, separate from PUD developments, large developments, more than one house, just like you know, we need to stop and we need to look, because I think it's really, really important for the impact of our future. Whether it's, you know, our future of our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, whatever. We might be underwater by then, I don't know. Yes, sir.
John Harold, First Street. I've heard some good things here, and I'm encouraged that you guys are willing to change some ordinances. Because of, when I first got here, and the administrator or two back, we talked about the ordinance that a council, I don't know how many years ago it was, decided to let residential houses be built on commercial property. All we talk about, we need restaurants, we need grocery stores. We don't have the commercial property. If you're going to change ordinances, I would like this board, committee, council, consider changing that ordinance back. Commercial for commercial, no residential, please. We don't have, we're limited in our space. So we talk about, oh, we want a public, so we want that. Where are they gonna go? And I'll give the example and then I'll shut up.
Okay.
La Siesta is all zone commercial. What a wonderful mini Reed Street that could have been for this city. Grocery stores, shops, restaurants, no vape shops, no cemeteries. But we put houses on them. So I would like you guys, since I've heard some positive things about, we can change the ordinance. Please consider that so we can encourage people to build here. Because we all say we want a grocery store, we want a sit-down restaurant, you know, something beside t-shirt shops. But we gotta have the place for them to build. I mean, I think what we miss here in this city, the biggest drawing factor we have is that beautiful beach. And we give it away. We give it away cheap, and we shouldn't. Yes. So please consider it.
So I actually spoke with Laura back when I first came in office, and I said, you know, we need, how could we, can we, I think we missed the boat when Michael hit us and kind of knocked us for a loop. We missed the boat on making sure that commercial was commercial and residential was residential. And she said that she didn't think that we could change that. Okay? I don't know if we can or not. I took her for her word, but she did give the recommendation, which I think Tim gave also, of making it, we could change an ordinance that if you build commercial, on a commercial lot, and you're gonna build residential, you have to have a downstairs space for commercial, and then you can build your residentials. Huh? It wasn't you? Okay, well, she made that recommendation, and that might be a good way to get our commercial, and it doesn't take away the possibility of them having residentials as well. And you'll see that in a lot of cities too, where you'll go into the city, they'll have commercial downstairs in their city, and then they have maybe apartments or whatever upstairs. So that's something on planning that we need to think about. How can we develop, as council, develop an order that would help with our commercial / residential area? Any other input? Yes, sir.
Kirkwood, Mexico Beach. Second, what the gentleman just said, if we can change the code zoning so that commercial is truly commercial, stores, restaurants, done, that'd be the ideal. And I think everyone wants it except maybe certain people in the development or real estate area. If we want to keep a community, I mentioned a couple months ago some stats, I'm going to go over them real quick, but here's why we have this pressure on us. In 1972, the U.S. population was 209 million. In 2022, it's 333 million. That's a 59% growth. Mexico Beach, same time frame. Back in the early 70s, 588 people. Now we're at 1,229. That's 100% plus growth. That's still a small N number. That'd still be a small community. But what has changed, and I don't have access to the numbers, and it will be the Bay County property assessor probably, is okay, what was the total number of Mexico Beach parcels in the early 70s versus what is it now today? And the delta, the big delta, bigger than the other percentages I just gave, is going to be because of multi-units. That's what's destroying the community feeling. Yes. What Lisa mentioned, growth, we've got these developments that want to come in. It's going to happen whether we want it to. Again, the U.S. population is growing For some reason, they don't want to go to the Dakotas, they want to come to a nice beach. That's the way it's going to be. We don't want to get swallowed up. So we do have to consider bringing them on. Maybe it's already happened, I didn't hear that last time I was up here. There should be an engineering study, development pays for it. We pick the engineer. Farmdale can be the first one. Those are beautiful houses, conservation land strip, beautiful. I've now jogged by it several times. That's the kind of stuff we want. And backing up what Lisa said, storm surge. We need someplace for this water to go. We need to put a buffer around the existing Mexico Beach for where this water is going to go in storms or what have you. So that'll also help insulate us if we need to.
And all part of planning and our development in the future, and planning for it. Thank you. Thank you.
Tim Lunderman, 105 St. Francis. So I would ask that you kind of take a step back. Before you change ordinances, you put a moratorium on any kind of building. I'm not going to stand here and tell you I'm for development or against it, but I think you need to go back and identify what are the problems we're trying to solve. I know, just talking to people, everybody wants to maintain Mexico Beach. And I think most people understand that the hurricane literally changed the landscape and the economics of this city. Now, what can we do, and what is it we want? I was hoping the planning grant would help with that, but that's been reduced to minimal discussion. But before, and I'll use the word overreact, before we overreact, let's take a hard look at where we want to be and what are the impediments. And I agree, we need to identify and get ahead of developers. And I'm not talking builders. And I would hate to see that we stop people from building homes. I wasn't here for the moratorium after the storm, and that was probably for a different reason, to clean up purposes and other things. But before you do that, and you discuss some very complicated things here, and I don't know how much you have researched and identified, done the analysis beforehand. Again, I think the Planning and Zoning Board, even though we may need, but they need the help of the engineering firm, the planning collaborative. You can pull that in. Have them take a look at it, or have a workshop maybe. But I just think this is way too big of an issue and way too detailed to make decisions on partial information, on pieces that we think. This is, and as I've been saying for a long time, as Lisa said, we need a long-term plan. Where do we want to be in 5 years? Where do we want to be in 10 years? It won't be my lifetime probably, but where do we, and how do we get there? And what are the impediments to getting there? We know that we're not going to be able to annex property outside of Mexico Beach and impose our zoning and building code, probably because those owners understand that it's easier to use Bay County rules, and they're going to come to us. I think we use our water and sewer as leverage for some of that, but we have to be reasonable. This is a business decision for them, and they're in business. But we should be able to get smarter than them. They have a lot of attorneys that do this for business, and nothing against Clint. Maybe we ought to be consulting a real estate attorney when we talk about Farmdale, for example, or something like that. But back to my point. Don't make hasty decisions with partial facts. Figure this out before you make these big decisions. Thank you.
Okay. So you said some really interesting things. We need to make good decisions, and we need to plan, and I think that's what I brought this to the table for, and I think that's what I've been saying. But in order to make sure that we can plan and not be engulfed by other things, we need to stop or slow it down, development, and get a grip on everything first. And that's my proposal, is that we consider doing a moratorium, no matter how temporary we decide that that moratorium would be, and how we would address getting to where we lift that moratorium, because we need to not just put a moratorium on it and walk away and let it fall through the crack. We need to plan. We need to have a plan in place, stop it, get our plan in place. We've got a good start on it with this $75,000 grant from Laura and the workshops we got planned. Now's the time when we could put a moratorium and really dig into this, and with planning and zoning and the people of the community, it's time. It's time that we start really digging in and make that 5 and 10 year plan, but we can't do it if we're being engulfed. And being bullied and being told we gotta do X, Y, and Z, because it's our city. And we need to we have been commissioned to take care of the city. Any other public comment for close? Yes, sir.
Tim King, Kathy Ling. My question is back to Glenn. I didn't quite understand what you said about that pipe. Let's just say we have breaks in sewers here, sewer lines, then that would allow more sand to get into our system. Would the sand damage our pumps? And if it damages the pumps, does that change the expected lifespan of the pipe?
Typically, what you got when you got a gravity feed and you get a break, when the pump comes on, the sewer will come out above ground, but there is a chance for sand to get in.
Right.
And I was referring to the 14-inch main, I just wanted to, and you would be aware that there's a solids, some sand is in there, and we don't know the condition of the pipe. Everything I saw, all we've had is hairline cracks. We think it is probably a water hammer, and the pumps come on, wrap up too hard. That and potentially being in the sand, the ground moving. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I actually have changed some of those pipes in lift stations myself, so I understand it a little bit. Like we had a problem at the one down the street here where they have their own private sewer systems. I changed the lift, the pumps in there, and actually asphalt broke loose from the streets and went down into the sewer. And it was blocking the pumps from making contact when they turn on, because they're not permanently mounted, hard mount. They mount with the pressure, so, yeah.
I'm not even gonna pretend I understand all the operations of these things. Not even gonna pretend. That's why we have experts, and that's why we have engineers and
Yeah. Well, I think because we're talking about development, the most important thing before you talk about it is infrastructure, and sewer is the biggest one. Water is easier to fix than sewer.
I think one of the things that Glenn was trying to make a point of, that there were 8 breaks prior to making the adjustment on the motor. The motor was taken in, and I'll just give you a number, a pipe this big, and it's forcing the PSI through it, was forced at maximum capacity when it started up. Right. What they did was vary the speed so it would ramp up slowly and start to push, rather than a burst.
Right.
yes, Lisa.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Just one more thing I'd ask you to keep in mind. We have a number of developments that have development orders already issued, half a dozen or so of them. I'm not sure, but I believe that anyone who has received a development order follows the LDC that is in effect when the development order is issued. Is this correct? Okay. So remember that these development orders for this assortment of developments, which some of them are quite large, are locked into the LDC that's in effect now. You have to take that into consideration, because when we develop a plan and we have to update the LDC to match the development plan, those guys won't be bound by the new LDC. So you have to keep that in mind, and that's one good reason for a moratorium. Now you can stop any more until you get a plan in place and update the LDC. But you have to remember that these guys aren't going to be bound by that, so you have to figure that part out too.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Alex Hogan on 7th Street. Let me tell you, here's what's frustrating me about this council and prior councils. We do a lot of talking, but we get nowhere. Now, the proposal was a moratorium, and we're all sitting there with, duh, let's make a decision. We're asking you to make a decision. Moratorium, yes. Moratorium, no. Okay? And we're talking about a lot of issues going on. Lynn talked about, he's not an expert on pumps. We need an engineer. Let's have a moratorium, bring in the engineers. Let them give us some ideas before we keep on building. We're sitting here doing nothing. We've done this for, I don't know how many years. We do a lot of talking, but we don't, no movement.
Thank you.
Mr. Hogan, what I asked you that we could come into discussion with engineers. It's not something that we made a decision proper. We are talking with Anchor, so before we talk with them, and we are working, making some progress.
Oh, no, and I'm not saying you people are not. I'm saying the council, we need to do something. We're doing a lot of talking, but we're going no place.
And I think with planning, you're using your planning and zoning, you're using your citizens, you're using experts in your, Mr. Davis, Mr. Thompson. Everybody is involved. It's not one entity that makes these plans. It takes the whole city, every, our wetlands people, what is that, ACDC? It takes everybody. So it's not just, we're not just looking at one entity doing this planning, it's us, everybody. So, but again, I'm gonna propose a moratorium on our development until we can get through some better planning for our city.
So do we need to make a motion?
I would just be careful, because it doesn't say anything about a moratorium on any future building in this agenda. It just says a discussion on planning and development.
Right. So
There's a lot of other people in the town who might want to have something to say. You should have said discussion of possible moratorium. Just warning.
So do we need to put that on the next agenda? Is that what you would suggest?
That's what I would.
I was just gonna say that this is a discussion, again, just like our other discussion. We can decide what we want to do. We can, look at other, we need to do our research, no doubt. And make sure that everybody's on the same page before we make a decision like that. But I think it's something we do need to bring to our table. So I propose that we.
So Chris, can we go ahead and put that on the next agenda then?
If the council wants it on the next agenda.
I don't think we need to go forward and build that.
It's a discussion of that.
Well, now we're in discussion. Next week, we would want to bring it to the table, get citizens' input, developers' input, do our research first, come to the table and be ready to say what we really see.
I think we all represent the citizens here. That's why we're sitting at this table. And this is a big concern to the citizens. And I think it needs to be on the agenda for the next meeting.
I think it's a big concern to our community, period, our livelihood in the future. So that's why I brought it to the table. The impact that we're having already since Michael is going to be 10 times if we don't have a plan in place. Every city has a plan. Or should, they don't.
We were able to put the discussion of the food truck control on the agenda by just mentioning it to you, Chris. So I would like to also suggest that we put the discussion of the moratorium of PUDs on our next agenda as a request.
What about a development plan? That's a term that Lisa used I really like. There's no reason we can't start that today, is there? Start a development plan, start working on whether or not we have a moratorium, we need to start working on a plan. And start getting the information to make informed decisions. So who do we task with that plan? Who's gonna be in charge of working on making the development plan?
I see,
A lot of people.
I see that in order to really develop a plan, you have to have reasonable, I think our first task is to stop our development so that we can get a plan in place. I think that's your first task. I don't think developing a plan and not doing anything to stop, you know, like Lisa said, everybody that's already got a HUD, they're gonna have to go by whatever's there now. We need to stop now, start that plan for the future. You don't do it in reverse. You don't do your plan and then say, okay, well, let's just stop right here. Well, no, you gotta have your stop, then your plan, and then your start back.
But I want the facts to make the decision.
Yeah, I'd like
Yeah,
to.
and that's why you bring it to the
I'd like to
table.
answer, I mean, Mr. Hogan's, observation of us not saying anything is probably a good observation from where he's sitting, but it's not from his table. The message is, you're doing all the talking, Mayor. These council are not.
The council table is open,
But,
sir.
let me finish, please. If you wanted to do a moratorium, I agree, we should, I'm not prepared to talk about a moratorium right now.
And it's a
Not
discussion.
even close. But planning and development, absolutely. We need to plan, we need to put together a long-term plan. But that's not gonna be done at this table. We have to say who we're gonna involve in that to do it.
Well, we need to bring to the table a moratorium to go to vote
That's
on
what,
development,
and I
so
agree.
that we can start with planning.
That's where you're sticking. That's what you wanna talk
Well,
about, a moratorium to stop so we can go to something else. Let's put that on the agenda and vote on it.
Okay, well, that's what Linda, I think, just said. She just wants to bring that to the table for their next meeting.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Well, made a request for Chris to do that for the next agenda.
Bring that to the table. We're gonna look at moratorium. In the meantime, I'm gonna do my research as really where we're at and where we're gonna be, and we need to make some good decisions. And then we can put in that moratorium, we can put on that same agenda, if we want to, who we're gonna, task for better, more planning. How are we moving forward? I think we're
Build a
already,
development plan.
I think we're already moving forward with, planning and development with Alora, and she's met with the citizens already. She's gonna have another workshop. We're gonna have that brought to the table. We gotta start already. So we gotta stop and start really digging into that deeper as we're moving forward with that plan. We got $75,000, that's not gonna do the whole thing. Okay, so we have to plan for that too, how we're gonna plan for our planning. All right, so we got that on the table for next time. Any other discussion on this? All right. Good discussions on both of these. I appreciate everybody's input. Again, don't want you to fall off of staying in touch with us and keeping us informed. And next item on the agenda is a letter to 37th Street property owners. Chris?
Mayor and council, I put this on the agenda because one of the items we discussed earlier, which is the .23 acres we own on South 37th Street, which was a great idea when it was done. However, with that street not being redeveloped at this time, and there's not really a big push to redevelop it, I think that the city has a unique opportunity to go in there and purchase more property. If it was up to me, I would purchase both sides of the street. I would focus on the east side initially, just because that's where we already own the property at. And that would allow us to go in there and do some public-private partnerships in the future to boost economic development, to boost, the number of restaurants, retail, and commercial areas that we have here in the city. I'd sent this letter over to the city attorney before our last city council meeting. He didn't have time to review it at that time. He sent it back, recommended some corrections, so that's what you're seeing in the letter before you today. And he recommended that I bring this to the council so no one would be blindsided that, instead of me just sending it out on my own as we plan for next year's budget. So what I'm looking for is any type of input that the council may want to provide to this, and obviously any thoughts on the matter.
So what's the zoning currently there?
Like,
It's
tourist, maybe.
town.
What's the Lake Lula?
Like
It says Lake Blue, that's town home district.
Oh, yeah, it's the Town Home District, 37th Street.
And I get all these little streets and stuff. What all's on that street?
It's Pure Road.
Oh, okay. That's on the south side. I thought you said north side. Okay. My apologies.
So Chris, if we had some people interested in selling their property, where would we find the funds for that, to be able to do that?
Right now, we can take it out of the reserves, and if it's later on, then we could budget for that.
And property's really expensive. What do you think is our goal as far as what we would be willing to pay?
Well, it would be a mutual agreement between the city and whoever was selling the property, and we would rely on appraisals. I know a recent sale down there was for $170,000. There's one lot that's for sale right now on the west side of South 37th Street. It's listed at $250,000, which I told them that was too much, and there's another one that's getting ready to be listed on the west side. But again, that would be determined by appraisals. It wouldn't be a decision made by anyone at the city.
How many properties are left there?
40.
Yeah.
Because they're only 17.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you having a blast from the Black Pass, Lisa?
Yep.
Me too.
Yeah. Adrian may be the only one who remembers, right after the storm, the city was in contact with almost all, if not all, of the property owners. We're talking just 37th Street now. And the plan that was given to the city, the resiliency and development plan, suggested that the city partner with those property owners and build retail on the bottom with the houses on top, because it makes zero sense to have residential of any kind when your biggest commercial draw is the pier. And that was always a problem, and the zoning was always crazy. So the plan was, consider changing that to mixed use so that you could do commercial, residential. If the city could get property, that would be even better, because the city could put something in or do whatever with it. You also have to remember that since then, they have rezoned between 4 and 6 of those condos as single-family homes. So that's another thing thrown into the mix. But if you're going to change something in the town that really would benefit by commercial zoning, that's it. So the idea was floated. The original owners have probably changed a great deal. I don't know what the consensus of the owners would be, but in addition to buying property, you need to get with the property owners in an aggressive push to see how they feel about residential and commercial. So
Tried to make it a shopping district, is what the
yes,
goal
it was suggested by all the agencies that become a shopping district, and it makes perfect sense.
I think there's what, 4 lots there that we have? 3 or 4. 3 or 4. I think obviously it'd be nice to see if we could go left and right of that, or north and south of that rather than jumping all over the street, but,
I say we see who calls.
yeah, exactly, yeah. Take all calls on.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
We won't talk that much today. John Harold, First Street.
That's a first, John.
I know it. Why is the city getting into the real estate business? Isn't this a capitalist country? We can change the zoning or ordinance, but why are we, the taxpayers, buying property? Let the individual developers, businessmen, they buy the property. They put the shops in. Why is it the taxpayers, because that's whose money we're using, unless you get grant money, which is federal taxpayers' money, which we all are. Why are we in the real estate business? I'm just asking this question. Why isn't it left up to the free enterprise system?
One, if I can answer that
Sure.
question. One is because cities and counties do this all over the place. State does it, federal government supports it. That's why they create grants for economic development. Two, how many developers are looking at Mexico Beach right now with the city council preventing people who are outside the city building residential and commercial wanting to come in, but the city's denying it. And then the city talking about a moratorium. You think any developers are looking here right now?
No, but if we
Okay,
get...
that's the reason.
Okay, now may I answer that? If you get your ordinances in row and work with them, but we gotta have infrastructure for all this that you're talking about building. We're not sure that we have the infrastructure. You're sure, but we're not.
There were buildings,
He's
there
not.
were residential areas there before.
Pardon?
There were residents lived there before.
Okay, but why is it us, the city? Why, again, why are we in the real estate business? We shouldn't be. I'm sorry, I'm a free capitalist. Like you, I've owned my own businesses. There's a pie, the government takes it out, the city takes it out, there's nothing left. You understand what I'm saying? But that's all I'm asking, the question, why are we getting in the real estate business? The real estate business we should be in, the 80 acres for the drainage, public works over here, if we're gonna do anything with the fire station. But the left should be left up, and that's why I say get the ordinance straight, so we can bring, and get our infrastructure, then we can bring people in.
See, there's been a lot of talk here about our infrastructure not being straight, using your words that you're
Yes,
just
sir.
using. I'm not convinced anything's wrong with the infrastructure. It's like, right now, talking about our infrastructure, we have a solution looking for a problem. There's no problem. Somebody tell me the problem. We have capacity. Glenn in our utility department has shown that we've got capacity.
I'm
The
gonna
six-
pull this back, okay? I'm gonna pull this
Well,
back.
but-
Okay. Let me just ask a question before my old mind forgets it. Chris, what do you consider infrastructure?
Water, sewer, roads, streets, parks, recreation.
Everything that impacts our city. And do we feel that it is really where it needs to be?
We get more people here every year. So obviously, people see that there's something in Mexico Beach that's worth coming here for.
Okay,
So-
you just said they weren't coming because I am sitting here asking for a moratorium, which is, I
I'm
don't
saying
think that's.
developers aren't coming. I mean, I've got real estate agents right now telling me that people, whenever they come here looking for a single family home, don't want to buy Mexico Beach because of the controversy that is around Mexico Beach right now.
Bless their heart.
Well, I'm just telling you what I've been told.
Yeah.
You know, so.
I guess that's why the population has increased. But anyway,
But
back to my.
let's go back to the citizens,
Yeah,
sorry.
why, my question is, and this is just my opinion, I don't think the city should be in the business, the real estate business. Leave that to the real estate people. And I think you and I agree, we're like a capitalist society. And when government gets involved, they just get leery of it. Whether it's state, federal, or local. And I'm just pointing that out.
Thank you.
Okay?
Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Larry Henderson, 7th Street. I agree with so much of what everyone said, but the problem is as this gentleman put it, everybody's saying a lot, and nothing really seems to get done. We seem to be talking about, and matter of fact, when I first started coming to these meetings, I went and met with Chris and said, what's the long-range plan? You don't have one. Never have. That piqued my interest, because how do you get there if you don't know where you're trying to go? We argue, do we plan, which one's first, planning or development? Well, obviously planning is, because if you don't have a vision of where you're trying to go, then you don't know what you're trying to develop to get there. So you start with that. We talk about, I'm kind of with agreement here, we're talking about doing a long-range plan. We're kicking that over to Planning and Development Committee, which we have, and then spend an hour trying to micromanage what we're gonna tell the Planning and Development to do. Give it to them. I mean, you can give them a mission statement, but that only needs to be about that long. This is what we're looking into, these are the concerns that were brought up. Then make sure Planning and Development gets publicized, not just a little, blurb, so people can come. And
First Monday of every month, and hopefully they're gonna have work.
well, they've been canceled, and there's no time on it, it just says first whatever. But even so, give them a specific task. And don't let them, why do they meet? Because there's nothing for them to do. I'm also kind of, we're talking about sending out letters to show interest in property. Well, why are we doing that before our planning and development? We just keep shoving stuff in front of them. We spent an hour on, we spent an hour on food trucks. We spent 3 meetings on golf carts. When we're talking about but what's the big vision for this community? And we keep kicking that down the road. And people are getting frustrated. We all are getting frustrated. We're getting frustrated. And it's being reflected, developers are getting frustrated. We're talking about a moratorium, fine, have it. But that doesn't stop the building, because as Lisa pointed out, and you all acknowledged, there's all kinds of permits already floating. We're not gonna see, there's still gonna be construction trucks and cement trucks rolling up and down our highways. And like the thing about the food trucks, just as an aside, okay, we're gonna do a court. Okay, that's nice, but if you have a court and that's all you've got, then you're gonna have more traffic going down to the court instead of just walking across the street to this one or that one and driving. And no matter what we do with a 2-lane road, it's all gonna be a problem. Bicycles, golf carts, all that. Let's just pop down to this one. And that's one of the things with golf carts in this type of a community. You don't have golf cart pass, and you've got tourists, and for some reason, as we all know, tourists, when they're on vacation, they think all the rules are suspended. They don't have to pay attention to safety. They let their kids, 12 years old, driving golf carts. Well, isn't that fun? We're on vacation. And that's both good and bad. They're here to have a good time, and that helps us, but it also creates problems. But we need to do a holistic approach.
Anything about this letter you'd like?
Pardon?
Anything about the real estate letter that he's talking about?
I think it's premature.
Okay.
If we're talking about planning and zoning, then why are we buying stuff that we don't know if we're gonna do anything with it or not? It's just kind of like another example of quilt work kind of an approach.
Well, I'm kind of like why I brought these to the table today. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you for all.
Anything else?
Sorry about the rant.
Anything else? All right, I'll close the, move to the table. Okay, did y'all want to discuss
I
this?
mean, just, going back to the letter, like,
Yes.
I mean, I don't think we as a city council voted on that. How did that decision come about? To send out a letter to offer people
Well,
that
that's-
might-
That's why it's coming.
That's why it's coming to us
Okay,
today.
okay.
It's just, do we want that to happen, or do we want to wait? Do more planning? Where do we want to go with it? I think Chris is what he does.
We first got, initially got 4 or 5 lots, I thought it was 4, it might be 5. Because of the pier road, in case we wanted to, the city would own that property where we could rent, lease to somebody for the people that come to the pier. Right outside, and we got a grant for them lots, like 500,000. So I'm for sending the letter, I don't want to blank one. Said we're gonna buy nothing, but I think we need to send a letter, see who's interested in that piece of property would be better. We could put food trucks there.
Now, what were you saying about a grant for 500,000?
We got a grant to buy the lots on Pier Road,
Is that correct?
Yes.
the ones we have.
So is there a possibility to get other grants?
I mean, there is. I've been looking at the Triumph grant, but we need to do some preliminary work, you know, in order to better our chances of receiving one of those grants. They're used primarily for economic development. But I just don't want the city to be sitting around on its laurels waiting, you know, to get a grant and then people start building homes back down there on South 37th. That's the thing that we're, you know, our biggest competitor right now is just time itself.
Mr. Kelly, you got any comments?
I just, like I said earlier, I'm not gonna send a letter, see what we get. We don't have to decide if we're gonna buy them, but let's see what we get.
I kind of feel the same way. I mean, if they're available, there's a lot of lots there, and it could be a nice area.
So do we want to task Chris to go on and send a letter with stipulations that nothing will be purchased unless the council is made aware of offers?
I don't think you even need that. I mean, you can't buy something without you guys.
It's happened before.
And as long as the grant money is available, because previously when I asked.
We'll need to know if there's grants being put out there as well.
Because at first when I asked how it would be funded, you know, you said possibly in the budget or whatever, but I was not aware that we had that 500,000.
No, we've spent it. We've already bought 5 lots. That's been
Oh,
on there.
okay,
That's
gotcha,
after the
okay,
first.
okay. So then we would go back to that particular way of funding it, okay, gotcha.
And we could, I think we put some grants out there and see what we can get. Should these come to fruition.
But we don't know if anybody wants to sell until we send the letter.
We could grant, grants take time.
Mhm.
I would go and put the grant in, Chris, and see what we can get. What do you need to be able to put that? You said there's some preliminary work.
For the Triumph.
Triumph Fund, yeah. That's a tough one.
Is there anything else that's there?
Triumph's got a lot of money, but they're very strict.
There's a lot of grants out there, I know, for different things, so we might want to look into that. But I would start by trying to put some grants together as well, send the letter out, see what we get. And that could be a long process, so. All right, so we're tasking Chris with, going on and put the letter out.
Yes.
Everybody agree? Any nays? Okay. Thank you. All right, next is, we're gonna get an update on our internal control topic. Chris?
At the last special meeting we had, the internal control topic was brought up, and the council had asked to go back and look at the previous audits that had been completed both before and after Hurricane Michael, and provide an idea of what internal control findings have been discovered. Went back, looked at fiscal year 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. There was no findings before Hurricane Michael. Years 19, 20, and 21 all had the same 3 findings, which was the management override and segregation of duties, reconciliation of account balances and audit adjustments, the timeliness of bank reconciliations. And in all 3 of those, the auditors noted that the reason those findings existed was because of Hurricane Michael, and then a significant amount of turnover in the position of the people who are responsible for doing those duties. So I just wanted to provide that information to the council. I've summarized everything on the first 2 pages, and then I actually included copies from the audits which show the findings themselves, as well as, you know, the recommended cause and effect, and then the recommendations from the auditors. So everyone has that information. I think, you know, talking about internal controls and just the operations of the city, whether it's payroll or purchasing or anything else, there's some misconception on the way that we do things, and people don't realize how many checks and balances that we have installed to prevent any kind of fraud or wrongdoing. And so one of the things that I want to do, you know, after looking at what I provided here in today's meeting, is I'm going to do a flow chart and show each of our processes.
And that's what I asked for from the beginning, was our processes. Yeah,
Well, I'm going to,
exactly. That was my exact words. I want to see the process, how are we set up, what the processes are.
You reach that by a flow chart.
That's what I was asking for from the beginning. So yeah, I'd love for you to bring that to us.
so anyway, that'll be here in the near future.
Do you have the old snippets of each topic of internal control, and who does what? Do you have those breakdowns?
Well, I've got the internal control
The policy.
and emailed that out.
That's the policy. We want to see the setup, so, yeah. So I'm good with bringing that back at the next meeting.
I can't promise it'll be the next meeting. We're a bit overwhelmed right now with responding to questions from the state auditors. So that, in addition to just the normal day-to-day operations, we're pretty busy. But I'll get it to the council as soon as possible.
Well, let's put a date. Where do you think you can bring that to us?
You guys are the boss, tell me a date and I'll make sure it's done.
Well,
But not next meeting.
not next meeting, yeah,
Well,
exactly.
based on your comment, what's a date that would work for you, knowing that you're busy right now?
That always just takes time.
I'm sorry?
You and Tammy, y'all the ones,
3 weeks.
and the girls in the office that day.
Do it back the first month
April
of May.
9th? April 9th? Okay.
Oh, wait, what?
First of April, first of May.
First of April.
First of April.
First
First meeting in
He
April.
just said first April.
April 9th will be our first meeting in April. All right. Anything else, Chris, on that?
No, ma'am.
All right, so monthly financial report, Chris.
Oh, I had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
On page 48, under item F, it says correction action plan, see management's response to the findings. On page 59, I think also page 60, they're not there.
I can provide those to you. Those were answered by the previous staff at the city, so I can provide their responses if you'd like.
I just wondered why they were missing.
They're the same every time. All right. Report.
As far as the financial report, you see in front of you, I mentioned at the last meeting that we were hoping to get the state revenues onto this one. It didn't happen. So what you see is what you get basically, but it does give an up-to-date picture of where our financials are, all except for the state revenues that we receive. There is one mistake that I want to point out, and that's in the general government. The expenditures there had some funds that were accidentally attributed to that account when it should have been legal services. And so we have to do the journal entry to reverse that out and put it where it needs to go. But other than that, everything is up to date and correct.
So the shortfall of revenue to come 2 million is still coming?
Well,
Over time.
projected, yeah, projected.
You don't see anything that's gonna stop that?
No.
I have some financial things, but I guess this is the best time to do it. So Car Rigs was engaged in November. It's been 3 months. I have serious concerns that they are not helping us solve our problem, and we need to get back to having a finance director in-house. He told us last month, I'm balanced through January, but I have a financial report in front of me that doesn't show revenues that started coming in October. So somewhere, somebody's not telling us what's actually going on, because state revenues come every month. You can't be balanced to January and not have any revenue on this sheet. I've also talked to a lot of staff who are stressed out, feeling that they are not having any help to get this caught up, and I don't think it's working. And I think we need to discuss bringing a finance director in-house who actually knows how to do bookkeeping and financial work, and not an auditing firm who's treating this like an audit, not like actual day-to-day operation.
Okay, I've been in on the conversations with CRI. There was a small, well, he came up here and said, there was a small learning curve because they didn't have anyone to help them. And I'm telling you, I'm gonna come back to where I was when I came here. Our accounting system, the system we use, is so outdated, so convoluted. It's a poor system. I've seen so many more that I've had demonstrations of probably 6, and they're so much better. They provide also not only a counsel or a finance director with good information, easy to find, easy to operate, but the citizens with an open view of what was spent, what goes in, what goes out. So I think Carr and Reeves are doing their best based on what they've been provided.
But they can't have a balanced bank statement through January that is missing hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue.
Well, then why aren't we
Can't be
providing them with
balanced.
that information? Why aren't they in there, being able to be in there and look and see what's
Pull
going
the
on?
state FLIR report and enter it.
Yeah,
That's all you need to do. Last week I walked into City Hall and I had an employee hand me the FLIR report from a year and a half ago and say, do you know what these are for? So they can put them in. Yeah, this is what they're for. Call the number. Why isn't Carr Riggs doing that?
This is the state tax.
That's their
and
job.
gas tax.
Yes. It comes every month. It clearly says local option gas tax on the report. You can run at the state for any city in the state. Put them in. You can't be balanced through October or through January when you have a finance report going back to October that doesn't show it. It's not possible.
How do we know if this financial report is correct?
Well, that's,
Apparently it's not.
I guess I'd rather take a report as correct over somebody's word. I don't believe that they're balanced through January. That's all I'm saying.
They're short on information. I mean, we should be able to call them and ask them that.
As I mentioned, whenever I first provided that report a few months ago, those numbers come directly from the budget summary report printed off of Springbrook. So any of the council can go on there and check those numbers if you don't think the report's correct.
But it's not correct because they're not in.
Well,
Because they have to be
it's-
manually entered by your finance person, which is Carr Riggs.
Well, yes, as far as
A lot of things are being done by the city employees, because.
But it shouldn't be due to internal controls.
Exactly, Carr and Riggs couldn't get to do that because it's not being provided.
I can run it right now. Who needs to provide it to them? They have, staff will tell you they're providing it. I'm just telling you, I don't think it's working with Carr Riggs.
Carter Riggs and Ingram have 100% access to our Springbrook software. They've got more access than I do. So they've got everything, they've got access to everything that they need, and have had it.
Okay, we're having a meeting with them this afternoon, we'll touch base on that.
I want to ask Tammy and Judy. Them two right now doing the work for our,
Those two plus, there's 4.
they doing the work for us. Every time I go in, they steady on something but audit. Would you like to say something, Ms. Brent?
I will just say between the state audit, the regular audit, and having a new accounting firm is very taxing on the employees of the city of Mexico Beach.
That's great.
And it's a lot. It's a lot.
To me, you are doing their work.
So,
To me,
let me ask you this, do we take 10 steps back or do we keep going forward?
we're gonna go forward.
We're gonna go forward.
So how do we,
Let's add a
how
finance
do we,
director and keep Carr Riggs.
You do that when you sit down with Carter Riggs.
I think this was suggested from the very beginning, and
It was.
and we were like, push to get Carr and Riggs in. I
From
don't
the
think-
beginning, I said
I don't
both
think
of
you
them.
can- I don't think that we can say they're not doing their job. They're doing, I've listened in, I've been on these meetings, and I've had personal, or individual calls with them. And I believe they're doing their jobs to the best of their ability of having the information provided to them.
So ask the question today, how do you have a balanced bank rep through January without revenues being shown on a report back to October?
Yeah, great question. Let's ask it. I mean,
Yes,
I think
good question.
and we'll get a fair answer, I believe.
Yep.
And I'll ask and see what information they're not getting, because, you know, we have been provided emails of information that they needed, and we provide that information.
Well, I can pull any state,
So
city
when
in the
you-
state's report right now and get the information you need.
Let me ask you this, Chris, so when you did this report, were you in contact with them saying, asking this exact question to them, why is this looking like this versus?
They've got someone different working on the current. Right now, their primary
Okay.
concentration is moved.
Exactly. So that's what we've gathered from our, well, even him coming in here, that's what we've gathered from that. So if you had a question, you should have asked that question and brought it to the council instead of, you know, Mr. Llewellyn just bring it to council. It should have been, we should have had that answer already before it got here.
My concern's been getting everything up to date for the fiscal year 22 and 23 audits.
Okay, so 2022, they're working on it. And I think they told me the other day that they're at the point now, they feel like they can send that information. I think we're meeting with Ben today too, which is our state auditor for the yearly reports, okay? They're
Our independent
not
auditing
auditors. Yeah, independent auditing firm for our state reports that should have been in already. This is the 2022. So they're about ready to pull that through. They're meeting with Ben today with us to make sure that they have everything. So you have somebody else working on the 2023, and this is 2023, correct?
This is
I mean,
23 and
2022.
24. The report that you have in front of you covers 23 and 24.
Right, so that's what they're working on now to get, that's probably why it's not there. That's a good question we could ask them today. Not throwing anybody under the bus here. We want to get good questions, good answers.
I am.
Well, you can throw them under the bus, but that don't necessarily mean they belong there, okay?
Said one thing, the report said something new.
Well, we get a piece of paper, we don't even know what is right or wrong at this point because we don't have everything in our system. All right?
The revenues and expenditures that you see on the report is correct.
And I think that the revenues, I think I remember them saying in that, or was it you, the revenues have not been posted into the Springwood system. So until they're posted in the Springwood system, your report's not gonna be accurate anyway.
Just the state revenue, and that's what exactly what Mr. Willie was talking about. It's
Exactly.
not been entered into Springboard.
So you can't be balanced to January if it's not on the system to balance. That's what I'm saying. But he sat in the meeting last month and said, we're balanced
This
through
report
January.
was for February,
Correct.
yeah. So
But it goes
it's a
back to
question.
October, because it's the fiscal year report through February.
Okay, so this is something Chris, I'm assuming is responsible to ask a question when he gets a report that doesn't look right, and he's not entering stuff into the system. They are. And if it was an in-house person, you'd ask them the same thing. It's not like that shouldn't have been a question, it should have been asked prior to, so that we would have that answer, instead of trying to throw people under the bus here. Okay, so we're gonna talk to them today, that'll be good. I think our meeting's at 1 instead of 2 today, Chris.
I know.
All right, so moving on the agenda, we have the department reports, Public Works.
You ready?
Go for it.
Okay, first I'd like to say, if you haven't had a chance, drive by 7th Street under the Palms Park. You'll notice a lot of improvements we're doing over there. We've got the polygon put up, we got the floor poured in it, barbecue grills, we've done a lot of work over there. And I believe starting tomorrow, they're gonna start installing the new fitness equipment. So a lot of things going on. We got some trees planted over there. We planted 21 nice trees over there. We got some bottle brush bushes going in this week. So a lot of things happening over at under the Palms Park. Also, we've been dredging all week. We are on the sandbar. I know that was an important thing for a lot of the fishermen. They were hitting that sandbar. Troy and Nick are out there dredging on the sandbar now. So we should have that completely opened up. So hopefully we won't have any problems anytime soon. And we are dredging with a new dredge. We got a few issues we had worked out with that. Dredge is running good. Troy, Nick said it's way better than the old dredge. So That's good news. Also, we've done a couple of stormwater projects in the last couple of weeks for some homeowners, and we're continuing to do those throughout the city. Of course, grass has started growing, y'all notice that. We're back out cutting grass, pretty much all over the city. If you've been over to City Hall, we've done a little maintenance over there the last couple of weeks, pressure washed it, done some drains, put them into the stormwater system so they're not running on the ground. Kind of getting everything looking a little bit better. We've got a couple of issues we're working on with the pickleball courts. Some of the lights over there are out. You gotta remember, none of those were replaced during Hurricane Michael. I've been in contact with Charlie at Current Solutions. We're trying to find a new, different way of replacing those lights that are just outdated. So we're looking at something going with probably LED, that we can retrofit the ones that are up there so we don't have to buy brand new lights. So we're all working on that. Other than that, just pretty much help with the gumbo cook-off. I think Guy's done a really good job on that. Hats off to Randy and his crew, done a really good job of that.
And I got some really, really good comments back, compliments on your team during the gumbo. We
Yeah,
really appreciate that.
they were hard workers. That's what I told them, go around, anything need to be done, help do it. I didn't want the other people to have to empty garbage cans, so I told them, I said, do not let the garbage cans get full, but Mr. John told me they did a good job. And,
Fantastic job.
So we always ready to help. Also, I don't know, Chris may mention this in a little bit. I think our new beach rake is coming in about sometime this week.
Yes.
So as soon as we get it, we're gonna go down, get it hooked up, and take care of getting the beach looking good before spring break really hits. Anybody got any questions?
I just want one more comment that we have got the absolute best city workers in the state of Florida and probably any other state touching us.
We get, if you look at the amount of people, we get a lot done.
Y'all do an awesome job.
A lot of work done. Thank you.
All departments, fire department, sewer department,
Oh,
public works,
and
everybody.
I need to say this also, we did assist Mr. Glenn.
I was gonna say, y'all work well together.
Yeah, a lot of times people come to me and ask about, if I got a couple extra guys, and I always do. If it's something to do with the utility department, we will, we assist him. Theirs kind of comes before some of ours. I can cut grass anytime, but when we got a water leak, we gotta get it fixed.
Yep, awesome job, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Utility. There's my old man. He's not gonna feel like an old man.
Y'all gonna get there one day.
Awesome job.
Tommy took the words out of my mouth. This whole entire staff works for y'all, and I enjoy working with each of you.
Y'all
Glenn,
just
I
work
hate to
so
see
well
you
together.
go. But I've got some good news. You remember the last quarter of December, our disinfection byproducts, we had a hit. We felt like it was an anomaly. We exercised some internal control. We got the results yesterday, and our HAA 5s are way down below the MCL. We think we have figured that out. We're also, on another note, sanitation is helping us with this. We're doing lead service line inventory identifications required by EPA, which translates to all homes built prior to October 1986 have to be inventoried, which simply means you dig down on the customer side, identify the type plumbing, also identify on the city side, identify what type plumbing. Got to take a picture of each side with their name and address there. Send it to them. We're working on that. We've got a deadline of October. We have submitted our 2023 Consumer Confidence Report to DEP for review. When we send that out, you can notice in the back section, it's got a section on there, PFAS, unregulated contaminants. Out of 90 samples, we had one that was 13 millionths over So we have to report all of that. It's not even something that is regulated. We have submitted and will implement a mandated valve exercise program within the city. It's required by DEP. And we've begun flushing all 6-inch water main dead ends. This is required by DEP to be done every quarter. With the valve exercising and with the flushing, the dead ends and our regular flushing, you may experience some discolored water. If you do, if you'll call the department, we'll go flush downstream and get it cleaned up for you. Just call the utility department. I want to make you aware that we're performing routine maintenance on our master lift station MX1 next Monday and Tuesday. Monday we'll do the cleaning of the station. Tuesday we will bring the company in to pull all 3 pumps, or the 3 biggest pumps we've got. So if you see a lot of equipment down there, just understand this is something that we've been needing to do. We're going to do that Monday. We set it up on 2 days because we didn't want 2 contractors down there on 2 different days. Pulling the pumps, pulling the impeller housings, looking for wear, looking to see if there's anything there. Also go get with Sandy and the fire department. It's time for us to do our SCBA training. Also do some confined spaced entry training. Sandy and the fire department's helped us with that. And it's time to do that again. You have any questions for me?
How are our lift stations looking? I know that, how many do we have, and how are they looking? Because I remember prior to me coming in office that there was a lot of issues that y'all were talking about. Nanook, I don't remember all the different stations, but how are they looking, and where are we at with that in our planning?
Well, one of the things that happened whenever I first came on board, we had 6 or 7 lift stations on bypass pumps, rental pumps. You and the city administrator allowed us to go back through and make some repairs. We don't have any rental pumps rented right now. Not to say that we won't.
Right.
But we're doing everything we can to keep it. Nanook and 14th Street are still issues.
Okay.
We did a lot of work, and I commend you. Mr. Hubbard allows me to do my job, and I appreciate that, and you allow me to do my job. We're still a work in progress. When you come to lift stations, you ask how many we had. I think we had 27 that started. We lost 2, and I think we've gained 2 or 3 more, so we're around 28, 29 lift stations.
Okay. So what can the council do, or what can the city do, the administration or council, to help with this?
I think the biggest thing is let's look at what we've got and evaluate and see where the biggest need is and upgrade there.
So we need to probably, in our planning and development, start looking at that too, and see what you might need in that department, or the city might need in that department in the future.
Yes, ma'am, and engineering will play a big part in that.
Okay. Very good. Just keep us informed what we need to do and how things are going with that. So.
I do. Mr. Chris allows me to come in and talk with him, and I appreciate he's got an open door and I can talk with him. Okay, anything else? Thank y'all.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Y'all do an awesome job and working together. All right. Fire department. He is getting a little gray around the temples, right?
Morning, council. Yeah, so it's that time of year again. We're gearing up for the influx of the younger crowd, shall we say. We had our older crowd for the winter time. That brings a different necessity, but we're now gearing up for beach activities. You'll see our red side by side on the beach with the yellow board on it. No, it's not somebody on a golf cart on the beach like it was. Some people thought it was last year. You should be there 2-3 times a day at least, running up and down the beach, checking on weather, waves, people, so on and so forth, trying to keep ordinances in place, depth to hold, that type of thing. If you remember last year, we got a $4,500 grant from the St. Joe Company to put in a floating dock. It took us a little bit longer to get it in. By the time we got it in, the season was kind of almost over, so we didn't use it last year. This
I keep calling them a side by side. The Ski-Doo is now on the floating dock and is ready to go. We will be over the next few weeks doing more training and so on and so forth with it, so it's second nature to get it off the dock and get it out and try not to take in too many fishing lines in the process as we go down the canal. Leave no trace is there 24/7 in theory, right? But in practice what we do at this time of the year is we educate people as to what they should and shouldn't be doing. So if we see something there, we don't take it away. We leave them with a note saying this is the rule, please pay attention to it. And once we start seeing the first turtles, I believe they're going to start doing their initial looks in the next few weeks. Once we start seeing the first one in, from that moment on, that's it. You leave it, you lose it. Or you have to come to us and get it back again, please. We're almost there. I actually, whilst we were sat here today, got a text message, or sorry, an email from the gentleman doing the decals on the ladder truck. It's only taken that long to actually get me the initial proofs through. Most of the stuff is in. I'm still waiting for the hose, but that day is getting a little bit closer, and we're still, obviously, you'll see it around town. We're still training on it. That'll never stop, but we're still getting ourselves used to the fact that it's 37 feet long and so many feet wide that we take up most of the road.
So are we on budget with all that, getting all that?
So basically, I told you when we first got the grant that we would be able to get reimbursement straight away for the truck. When I went for reimbursement from the truck, the way they had written the grant agreement actually wasn't quite that way. So we are in the process right now of rewriting that grant agreement, so I can get that money back for the truck, the $390,000 for the truck, and then once all the equipment comes in and everything else is dotted and crossed, we'll get the remainder $110,000 back. So
we're on budget with that.
Oh, 100, yeah, I think I went over by $29.00.
Oh, no. I think we can handle it.
So once that grant agreement comes back again, I will need you to sign it as quickly as possible. But it's really a re-signing of what was signed before. It's just changed the fact that they can do it in two reimbursement scenarios. Basically, that's it. It's business as usual. But if anybody has any questions or any worries, please let me know. We put in another key box the other day.
Change your batteries in your.
No, that's normally done in October.
Okay.
As long as you do it once, a year. Whenever we change them, we put in the best batteries we can buy. They actually last way longer than a year, so people don't. But we say it every 12 months.
Thank you. Code enforcement?
Code enforcement this month, she's been dealing with the food truck issue. She is working on a couple of applications, as Ms. Hamilton stated earlier. She's also been dealing with a lot of phone calls about alcohol on the beaches. She's picked up approximately 20 different snipe signs around town. Been working on 3 different special events permits. Had several courtesy violations at the boat launch for expired annual permits or no daily permit. She's had an RV removed from a vacant lot on Highway 98 and issued a notice of violation for a house that needs to be repaired and cleaned up, and then just doing the day-to-day, normal code violations.
Ken, is there a reason why Ms. Lyons doesn't come to our meeting and provide the reports like the gentleman here?
Well, it's department heads, and I don't consider code enforcement a department head position. It's just her.
All right, looks like the next one up is the Sheriff's Department, Mr. Martin. You got up real easy.
You missed before he got up.
The youngest one of all.
All right. I'll start off with some stuff I left in your boxes the other day for 2 issues. It's fixing to become issues and everything. One of them is in July 1st, 2024. The UTVs are going to be legalized to travel up and down the roadways. Tags, insurance, the whole 9 yards, just like LSVs and everything else. Need to look at it, need to think about it, but you can opt out of it. Like you said with the golf carts, they got the 10-year-olds running the golf carts with the permits on them and everything. It won't be no different with a UTV. They'll be out running the roads and everything else, but they're supposed to be 16 with a driver's license to have the UTV. One issue.
And do you think that that's gonna become, being it's gonna be a state statute law? You think if we tried to stop that, it would just be too confusing? I mean, we've got our plans, and they run up and down the road with license, as long as we're licensed. Is that gonna be any different than our golf carts that are licensed and tagged?
You've got a UTV that's 1,000 horsepower and can do 80 miles an hour.
Okay.
I'm just
And they should
saying.
be only doing 35, because that's all.
Yeah, but like you have a Corvette, you're not gonna always run it at 55 miles an hour.
And they get a ticket.
And they get a ticket.
Okay.
But that's-
So I don't know is that something we need to look at our ordinance and add to the ordinance as a
Well,
ATV?
like I said, you've got an option of opting out on it, but it's gonna be a state license, registered, and everything else, traveling up and
I
down
don't
the
think that we're
roadways.
gonna be able to take them off the table. I mean, if they're licensed and tagged and insurance, there's nothing we can do about it. It's
The
like-
municipality can opt out of it, like the county can.
Whenever the lieutenant first brought this up to me, I had emailed the information over to Clint, asked him to look at that and work up a draft ordinance in case the city did wanna ban those from our roadways.
Would that only be, city roadways, not 98?
No, it would be the municipality, Mexico Beach city limit proper.
You talking about opting out?
Huh?
Opting out, can you explain that, what's that?
Oh, the community or the county can opt out of accepting this
okay.
law in
Okay.
their area.
Thank you.
I think that we probably need to put that on our agenda for next meeting to actually get into a deep discussion about. Okay.
And also that one is the e-bikes. They're up and down the sidewalks and everything else, not just kids on them, there's adults on them. I understand that they're out running around and everything, but some of them are getting at a good clip. I don't know if we need to put, speed limit signs on the sidewalks, but when people are walking dogs and stuff like that on the sidewalks, on leashes, it gets to be a little bit of a problem. But it's something to think about.
Okay. I think we just need to bring it back to council and everybody do our due diligence in looking at it.
Because the e-bikes will go up to 30 miles an hour also.
Probably shouldn't be on the sidewalk.
Well, that's another thing you can get into with not allowing them on the sidewalks, excluding them from the sidewalks, because it's not a multi-use path. A multi-use path has to be 8 feet wide. And, for pedestrian traffic and everything, the little regular bicycles and everything, yes, they're convenient, they're wonderful and everything, but do you want them on your sidewalk with your people trying to walk up and down? It's like the golf carts. They don't fit.
We'll bring that back to the table for a deep discussion next meeting.
All right, calls for service in February, 234 calls, miles patrolled 11,346, traffic stops 97, citations 14, warnings 80, 10 arrests, 6 misdemeanor and 6 criminal infractions for traffic. So, and traffic accidents too. And also, we've already started, like I said, spring break. And we've already had our, first arrest of spring break off the beach, and, this young kids and drinking and everything else, and they had to go to jail. Would warn the community, please, if we're out dealing with people on the sidewalks and stuff, please don't stop and heckle the people that are getting arrested. You need to get this riffraff off the streets and stuff like that, and things like that. It sometimes makes them a lot worse to handle on the side of the road.
I've never heard in a million years that had to be said by an officer.
We try to keep low key. We try to keep everything. We're trying to be as balanced as everybody wants us to be. But whenever you're sitting there trying to arrest them and tell them what they're doing wrong, and the people are talking about getting the riffraff off the streets, it's stop and do that right in front of them. It's a little bit of a problem.
Let's not do that. Yeah. Good plan. Okay.
But, we've got our patrols up on the beach, we've got our weekend spring break, spring and ATVs and stuff like that down there with extra deputy and stuff like that also. So give us a call if you see something. Drinking on the beach is legal in Mexico Beach. So, you know, we
But
can
no
monitor.
glass containers.
No glass containers, no fires on the pier, or anything like that, but yeah, it's, yeah, that was the old law.
Okay, anything else?
Anything else?
Question, what is the policy on parking? Because we're already having people park on sides, blocking the residents in, parking on people's lots that they don't own. What is the policy for parking on like the side streets going to the beach?
Okay, parking on the side, it's always been explained to me as city right of way. They can park on the sides of the road, on the side roads going down to the beach, but they can't block driveways or anything else. Fire hydrants, driveways, but yes, they can park on the right of way. It's like a 10-foot right of way, isn't it, Tommy? Off of the side of the road?
It depends on where you live, because like on my street, our
Yeah, you got.
property line's in the street, in the
Yeah.
road. But on back, you have like a 20-foot.
But like down on the accesses going down to the beach and everything, you can't block the end of the road for access points or anything like that. And, but driveways, fire hydrants. But as far as the right of way, it's always been a deal with Mexico Beach that they had parking on the right of way.
So me living on a corner, so someone can sit there and just block my side and I can't even pull in and out.
No, they say can't block your driveway.
Okay. Well, my driveway's on 98, but I have jet skis and things like that, and I pull out, and I can't because they block. I mean, we literally have them park and block the driveway. I'll call them. I'll call and get them.
Call us and we'll
Okay.
take care of it.
I just want to make sure I have the information right, because I don't want to offend anybody and.
Yes, ma'am. Just holler, we'll take care of it.
Yeah, thank you.
We know that parking's gonna be an issue, and it's gonna be probably a bigger issue this year than in past years, because we're getting more and more people coming back, so.
But, you know, as far as the golf carts and everything, just as usual, they park on the right of way coming up to the entrance or the 98, the ends of the roads there on both sides. They can park on the right of way, not blocking any driveways or anything like that also.
So are you saying, Marty, they can park on both sides of the Highway 98 or just the water side?
No, just the roads coming up to 98 on those sides, like 8th Street, 9th, or 8th, 7th.
In the road parking.
Yeah. City right of way.
All right,
Questions?
thanks for the report. Oh, Lisa, did you have,
I have a question
for
for
Marty?
Golf carts on Fifth Street. We have a crosswalk at Fifth Street. Isn't there a regulation that requires the golf carts to be back like 20 feet if there is a crosswalk there? And we do have one there. And it's incredibly difficult to turn off of 98 onto Fifth when golf carts are on both sides, because most of the time, I think I told you this last year, they don't pull up and they're sticking out 2 or 3 inches into the lane, and you cannot get in.
And that also helps us with the registration of the golf carts, so we know who's driving these golf carts, so we can take care of those golf carts.
We'll go
voodoo.
Yeah.
Him and his boots.
He loves the boots.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Oh.
All right, we're gonna open up next section to citizens' comments. Come to the podium, please, state your name, city of residence, and you have a 3-minute limit. No citizens' comment? Did you have a question? You had your hand up.
I did, but it was just a brief one.
Okay, just stand up to the podium.
It's just
That's okay.
one that he's gonna love getting from me.
Okay, say your name and.
Oh, yes, Sue Hogan, 7th Street.
Thank you.
Could you give us an estimate on toucans? I'm so sorry, dear. I was just asking for an estimate on the opening of toucans. Sorry.
The building.
I don't have an update. They've got the permits. I know they started ordering some materials, but as far as an actual start date, I don't have any idea right now. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So I'll call Jerry and see what he can give me more information.
Thank you, Miss May.
Yes, ma'am. Just remind me. Thank you.
Lisa Logan. In regards to toucans, what is the status of the contract between Toucans and the city for the use of the beach parking? The latest contract I found was from March 8, 2018, and it was to be renewed year by year, and it was still $1 a year that we were charging them for their using prime beach parking.
I don't think that, I mean, we're gonna have an issue with that when they do come back, because our city beach parking is right there beside them, so.
We had entered, contracts all these years, and we should be charging them a great deal more than $1 a year, because especially at lunchtime, that is prime beach time, and that is a city-owned, taxpayer-owned property. So that contract needs to be revisited, and currently, I don't think there is a contract if we're still year to
Currently,
year.
there's no contract to review, so
Well,
if they come to us, we'll have to.
Without
at that time.
that beach parking, they cannot have the liquor license, because their parking lot does not give them enough parking to have the liquor license.
And
So they have
They
to
know
have
that
it.
then, and we do not have a contract with them, and they know that then, so that's their issue with their liquor license, not ours.
Well, bring it up and let's charge them a little more than that.
Well, I'm sure it's gonna have to come to the table before, at some point.
I'm not sure how that conversation will go. I mean,
They got 3 parking lots. I mean, they got the one beside the Exxon, then they got one behind the condo.
I'll look at their stats and then see, see what the city's willing to charge them for parking there.
I don't know that they're gonna need our city parking, but we're gonna have power, we're gonna police them sitting, or, their customers parking in our parking. That would be another story. Parking's an issue all the way around.
Sorry about that.
All right, any other citizens' comments? All right, good. Well, we're gonna go down to mayor comments. You might wonder why I bring these things to the table. We've had a couple hours discussion on a couple items on the agenda today. I bring it to the table because it's important to our community. We're here as a council to serve you, the community, and we need to make sure that we're united in making sure that our community is in the future, and today and in the future, prepared for what's coming ahead of us. We got to prepare, because if we don't prepare, it's like anything else. If you don't have a plan, it can be chaos, and it's a bad impact. Not a bad liability, but a very bad impact on our community if we don't plan ahead and what that's going to look like. And I think we've got a great start. Again, I'll repeat myself from earlier, we've got a great start with the $75,000 grant. We probably need to think about more grant money for our planning, and we need to just continue moving ahead to being better prepared for the future. We missed a great opportunity during Michael to make some changes to our ordinances, our LDC, related to commercial properties and how our layout of our city is. But where we're at now, and we have to decide where we want to be. And I don't see right now that we are prepared for what could come before us. So I'm going to move to, and I really appreciate, again, all of our city employees, our city staff. I know they're working hard, and I know it's a burden on our staff for our audits to be going on, and our catching up on our audits with bringing in the CPA firm, and then also the state auditors that are here. They do ask for a lot of stuff, a lot of information and access, and I know that's a burden, but they're doing a great job. I know they probably go home at night and think about all the things they got to get together for the next day or whatever.
I want to say how much we appreciate our staff and our employees in this city. And without them, without you, we wouldn't have a city. So I appreciate everything that everybody does to make us the best that we can be. City council comments.
Talking about the parking issue, you know, we approved the second phase of St. Joe development, so they went ahead and got started on the D.R. Horton condominiums. But we were also promised that parking lot by Chris Short. So I wanted to know where we are on that. You know, they were gonna build the parking lot across the highway, so to accommodate the additional people traveling. So we were promised that back in December, I think, so.
I came here a month ago, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So where are we in that happening, actually happening?
Well, the D.R. Horton townhomes that you see being built out there right now are separate from what the city council had put the restriction on. The city council had already had the first hearing, and then when it came back, then the city council put the stipulation on there that the
Second phase.
yeah, the second phase would be complete, or the parking lot would be brought back to the city before the second phase was approved and anything started going vertical. So it's two different phases that you're talking about.
But where are we with the parking lot?
It's still been in the design. They're finalizing it. What was brought before the city council a month or so ago was the
Proposed
just the
plan.
proposal to make sure the city council was fine with how it looked.
So, you know, it seems like things just kind of fade away oftentimes. So at this point, can we have Chris Short come back and have a further discussion so we get a better idea when that's going to happen?
Or you can just call Mr. Short and get an update for us.
And
We
then
need some
another,
timelines maybe.
another issue I had, I've asked a few times about putting flagpoles in all of the parks, all three of the parks, especially now that we're gonna be getting closer to Memorial Day. You know, the Tyndall connection, so many veterans that live in town. We've brought it up and everybody kind of agreed to it, but how can we make that happen?
First time I've heard it. I know we have one in Sunset Park. You want flagpoles in all the parks?
Yeah. We talked,
Yeah,
we did it temporarily, you know.
We just ordered a brand new commercial grade aluminum one-piece flagpole to go down at Sunset Park. The other one we had down there was, you know, one that was purchased at Home Depot. We had a storm come through and it broke it. So the one we're gonna put down there is one like at City Hall over here. But now, just to give you an idea, that flagpole we just bought to go down there was about over $3,000. So you're looking at about $3,000 a piece, you know, if you want to do them at other parks. Before Hurricane Michael, we had three flagpoles, one at City Hall, one down at the old fire station, and one at Sunset Park. So we put the one back at Sunset Park now. As a matter of fact, I think it was supposed to ship yesterday.
Okay. Well,
I would think, well, then you tell me what you think. I would think if nothing else, we should have maybe in the two parks, Parker Park and the Sunset Park. They're on 98 versus, you know, going down into Mr. Smith's Park on 7th Street.
well, you know, we've done a lot of work on Under the Palms. It's gonna be used more by the population. And we do have events there where we actually say the pledge allegiance to the flag. It'd be nice to have a flag there when we do that, so. I'd like to see that.
Can we think about that for the, I mean, the budget's gonna start again in July, and be discussed through August, I think we've discussed the next budget. So we could possibly look at putting that on our budget in next year. Especially if
Is there any
it's-
other way to fund that instead of waiting a whole year to the budget? I mean, is there other general funds that could be pulled from?
I mean, we can, you know, we need to find a location there under the Palms Park because you got that concrete cul-de-sac that runs down the middle of it, so we need to find a place where we could get the flagpole in deep enough.
Temporarily pretty cheap, like I got $90. But you got to take it down though.
Yeah,
for
I
somebody
mean, you
to
know,
sign.
between Tommy and January, they kind of know the flow of that park, they've worked really hard with the planning of that park, so maybe they could make it happen.
Yeah, but the one that we just bought to go with Sunset Park, I think it's $186
Jones? Would we need something that robust or?
Probably not as much as what's at Sunset
Yeah.
Park. I think January when she started checking, they start the commercial one grade aluminum about $2,000 and they go up. And we got one that was a little better with, Sunset Park because it being right there on the water. So we could probably go with a cheaper one over there and maybe not as high. I think we ordered like a 30-foot one for, Sunset. We might go with, like a 25-foot one for over there.
Would you able to take on the pricing on that for us?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Then, let's see, also, we have Arbor Day coming up pretty soon. We haven't really set a date for that or made any plans for that or ordered the trees. So we'll just see how we were gonna follow up on that.
I plan on putting that on the next agenda, but Arbor Day will be on April the 26th. That's the day of the National Arbor Day.
Mhm.
If the council wants to go ahead and set a time now, then, we can get that going, but like I said, I plan on putting that on the next agenda.
And we've also had an offer from the citizens who are members of the Port St. Joe Garden Club, and Master Gardeners have agreed to help us with that.
Okay.
So just, distributing the trees, helping the people select the trees for the particular type of yard that they have. So that's a good resource we can tap into.
Okay.
And then also my last issue, where are we in the point band fiber optic project? How close are we to the completion of that?
They're hoping to be completed by the end of May, last time I spoke with them. I mean, they're out there moving quick. And if you see the posts on the city's Facebook page, they're on numerous streets here every week doing the work, so they're moving right along.
So have we had any recent breaks in the water line?
I think that's not yet.
Any boil notices this week? And so then after they're all finished in May, then when will they come back and do the repairs to the streets and things that have been damaged?
We'll have to coordinate that with them.
So if I'm like broadband, I do have a question. And Linda kept talking, it went right out of my head, let me put it on. Okay. Old age and too much upstairs there. Night work. I literally almost hit one of them the other night. If I hadn't seen the orange wire, I wouldn't even known there was a person. Because the wire was moving, trying to get out of my way. And I wasn't speeding, I was just coming through there. And it was, one of the tight streets. So, can we do something about the work at night? After dark?
I can talk to them. It's probably not much of an issue now with the time change.
Yeah, I was gonna reach out to Jordan, but I thought I'd just bring it to the table and let you handle that.
They did ours at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I'll meet with them in 20
Those
minutes.
generators running.
Right.
Jared, did you have a discussion with some of the guys about working at night?
Yes.
And what was your discussion?
I just like it at night because I think they don't be on the road, but
Safety.
they under contract when they have so many feet to do a day. And to them, to the workers, the contractors, they're gonna go till they get that footage. And I know it's not, I know that's Chris or up to the man, I don't think we can stop it.
Safety.
I understand safety.
So, we wanna stop the work at night. I would say, as council, do y'all feel like that's a safety issue and we should probably address that and just make sure they stop it?
7 o'clock.
Well, as the time changes and it goes through, it's gonna be lighter or longer, but
Right, they
we don't
probably
need
work
to
at
be
7.
probably 7 right now, and it's,
I think 7.
so, were you meeting with them?
Yeah, not about city stuff. though.
Oh, I was gonna say, if you're meeting with them,
I can tell them, but it's
Yeah.
a different group.
and I could call Jordan, but I think, if we could just let them know we want the night, work to cease at dark.
So Chris, will you make that communication with them?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Jared, you got
We put a time on it,
Okay.
didn't we? 7 o'clock?
7.
Okay.
All I don't know if we can do that or not,
Because
that's why I just
every,
couldn't do it.
every day it's going,
Well, you know,
Well,
they
I understand safety, but they got a job to do.
well, they
so.
can.
phone call.
Yes, ma'am.
Shut that out, phone call. Maybe did you have to do something? Okay, I got one thing I want to bring up. Fuel pump. Months ago, we were looking at a fuel pump that would be code, put a code in based on who you are and pump the gas. Where's that at?
Tommy gave me the quote, but it wasn't a budgeted item, and so I haven't brought it to the council.
I think we might need to look, I mean, we're able to find money for different things. I think we might need to look at the department budget or general budget and see what we can do. How much is it? I mean, it hadn't even been brought to us
It was,
at cost.
it was almost $53,000, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. In the long run, what's it gonna save us? I think it could possibly save us quite a bit in the long run. I talked with January, once about how we log our gas and stuff, fuel being used, what comes in, what goes out. And my perception of it, it's different to monitor. So I thought, well, the gas company must have been already ordered or at least getting ready to be ordered or putting it, because that's been months ago. I would like to see that move forward if we can, I mean, we find $78,000 for the sheriff's department, which we need.
Well, Mayor, I think Doug was the one that started that about getting the gas pump. And we got the information, Troy did, about what it was gonna cost to get it put in and all. But I think Chris is right, it was never budgeted in there for that. It was just kind of a fact thing to see how much it was gonna cost to get that done. We didn't realize when we started this, we were thinking, Troy was thinking probably around $20,000, and it ended up being a lot more than what we thought it was gonna be. But, I mean, you know, that was where it's at. I don't think I don't think Doug ever budgeted any money towards getting it. It was just, we were getting to find out how much it was gonna cost, and then we could budget, if that's what the council decided they wanted to do.
So we're nearing, I mean, we're 3/4 of the way through our budget. How are your budgets looking? Would we have that money either from general or a combination of general and department funds?
We're only halfway through the budget year, and the busiest part of the season's coming up where our expenses go up dramatically. So, obviously, we've got money in reserves if the council thinks this is important enough, but Tommy, correct me if I'm wrong, whenever our public works guys are getting fuel, it's always either Nick or Troy. They're providing it, annotating everything, how much is used, who got it, and everything else.
That is correct. Nobody has access to it, other than Sandy has access to it for the fire department. Marty has access to it for the sheriff's department. Troy and Nick, or either January, are the only ones that dispense it. Mr. Glenn, they get it from Troy or Nick or January. So, yeah, it's under a different than it used to be a couple of years ago. We got it where just certain people are able to get it.
I think we need to not let this one fall through the cracks too. I think it's something the city needs, for record keeping. We got, you know, I think the sheriff's department pays us back for their fuel. And I think it will benefit us in the long run to be able to track our fuel costs, because it's a large part of our city operations is fuel costs. It's one of the large ones. We can not let that fall through the crack, and if nothing else, if we can't find the budget and go and start moving toward that now in our current budget, we definitely want to put it in our budget for the upcoming year. Mr. Will. No. Mr. Wood.
Gas station, Sunstop Annex, timing based on the contract? Where are we at?
Not close at all.
Not close?
2 years.
Yeah, 2 more years.
Oh, man. I thought time flies.
Yeah, I'll email you all the copy of the contract so you can see the dates on it. Yes.
Anything else? That's table? Okay. Mr. McCahill.
I just have one question. How are the new city attorney application proposals coming?
That was gonna be my question too. Have we got the proposal out?
Yeah, it's out.
It's out, and when did it go out?
Very quickly after.
Yeah, like the next day or after we decided, so yeah, so it's been out for at least a week, at least.
Closer to 2.
Yeah,
I will
maybe.
say I've gotten about 2 or 3 messages from law firms. I haven't answered them back, just wanting to talk to me about whether they should do it. I haven't returned their calls.
We haven't received it.
Well, they can look at the RFQ and.
I'm just talking, I'm not getting involved, I'm not calling
Yeah,
back.
I understand. If you'd like to pass that information
Well,
on to
they're calling because
council.
they saw it, they
Yeah.
know how to apply for it. They just want my opinion as to whether they should take the job.
Okay.
I'm also pursuing a couple of candidates that I'm checking into.
Are we good to do that? We're okay to?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we can present the information
You
to
can
them,
just
say
tell them
the
we got
job
an
is
RFQ
available.
out there, they can go in there and read it and determine if they want, you can answer any questions for them based on your experience.
I'm not calling a soul after last time I called somebody.
Good to see you.
Will not call anybody.
They're not employees, so I don't think
It
that's
could
a
be.
problem, so, but yeah. Anything else?
And just saying, my contract expires at the end of this month.
Yeah.
And with the talk of, you might have way more P and Z meetings and stuff like that, we're gonna need to talk about how, if you want me to continue on to pick somebody else.
So what about,
I said I might.
Oh, you might? I thought you agreed to.
Thought you agreed to.
Not signing a
so
contract.
let's do this. Since we are at the table, and the only time we can talk is at the table, let's decide what we want to do. We want to see if we can get an interim attorney to come in at the 1st of April.
I personally think if he's willing to stay, we leave it the way it is.
At the same salary range, are you good with
But,
that?
no, I'm not.
He
If
doesn't-
if we're
that's what
gonna,
I
if
think
we're gonna
he's
have
saying.
way more P and Z meetings, I'm gonna have to attend, no, I'm not.
Okay, so, I'd be willing to, and I think Al's done this in the past. I'll be willing to see if we can get an interim in to come and visit us and between now, maybe our next, would have to be our next meeting, because that's our deadline.
When I just asked the question, you said no based on the salary. I think that's why you said no, or what?
Yes.
Okay, so are we willing to offer the new guy interim more than what we're paying him? And if we are, is that a better option?
I think we need to keep it till we find somebody. I do.
But then we would have to renegotiate his salary.
We'll probably have to do that with the interim also.
We ain't gonna get it cheap if we pay him.
Well, actually, there were people that were just as cheap that applied at the same time, Mr. Cahill did.
Lots happened in the last year.
So, yeah, it has.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the same time, do y'all want me to reach out and see if we can get an interim?
And then come back to the next meeting with the information you've gathered.
I can have the interim come, I mean, if there's somebody that's possibly willing to be an interim, they could come to our next meeting and we could vote to put them in place until we decide if we want to do it, you know. They may be wanting to put in their application too, RFQ too. So I think the way Mr. McCahill came to us was Doug went out and recruited him to come. And then the council ended up keeping him. So I think that's pretty much, I guess we can talk, I'll look at our previous applicants, RFQs that we had in 2021, see if anybody's interested in coming, interim, putting in our RFQ, testing them out, whatever it looks like. What do y'all think?
My part, I'd rather move forward with Mr. Cahill until we find somebody to look at coming on full time. Income doesn't work.
And the money, you never just say, you just say it'd be more, that's what you're saying?
Yeah, and the only reason why I'm saying that is because in this meeting today, there was mention about you guys are giving that issue to the P and Z board. And she said, well, they can meet more than, they can meet once a week. Well, if that's the case, it's gonna be involved more money.
Could you tell us how much? That way we can sort of halfway agree?
Well, I don't know. Why don't you see if you can get somebody else? And if you can, that's great, and if not, then we can have that discussion.
And, you know, maybe we as a city council, all of us need to be more proactive in pursuing and really reaching out to try to find another alternative, and then the issue is resolved.
And how long does this RFQ have to stay out? When do they have to be
It's
submitted?
due on they're due on the 28th.
They're due on the 28th?
Yes.
The council said he wanted it ran for 4 weeks.
Do we have to run for 4 weeks?
That's what
It's already
advertised.
posted.
I'm just kind of, I know.
You got time, you can call special meetings or something, after you get it in open one.
So, what are we looking at?
27th is the next city council meeting.
26, yeah.
26th.
Yeah. Then they're coming into the 28th. Well, we could plan on going on and having a city council meeting. When are they due by, on the 28th, by 5 PM or something? By 2 PM? Okay. Why don't we call a special meeting on and put it on a special meeting for the 29th? For the council meeting
I won't be here.
and review them.
If we haven't already hired somebody at that time.
Well,
That'd be the earliest you could.
we can't until we get the RFQs and so.
Well, unless you got an
discuss-
interim.
Yeah.
So, maybe we can either do the interim, or we can do, meeting on the 29th, review them and start, decide who we're gonna get right away, to start April.
We ain't
I
got
think
anybody
that's an
yet.
option.
We don't have anybody yet, nobody's.
You know, I hate to say, wait to the end.
In my opinion, we need to wait and get somebody before we call a meeting. My opinion. Just call a meeting, just call a meeting.
You can't get somebody till you vote. That's what the 29th would do, to look at the applicants on the 28th after 2 o'clock, and then go meet on the 29th to vote on who we would like to put in that position to start in the next month. Well, that's our 2 options, an interim gives it more time, or we can, I mean, they gave Clint 6 months before he went under contract. And he came in as an interim and then
I
6
had
months.
a 6-month temporary
Yeah,
contract.
temporary
because
contract.
the other
So
guy
he wasn't
quit.
actually hired until 6 months later.
Correct.
So we can do something like that. So I think this council needs to make that kind of decision on here today, being Mr. McCahill's ends at the end of the month.
So would we want to call a special meeting possibly for March the 29th, since the deadline would be the 28th, and then, you know, hopefully everybody will be more assertive in trying to find somebody.
Well, if you have all your RFQs there, you come in after 2 o'clock, when they open them even, and we can review them, score them, and then, I mean, we'll have to come in at different times, because can't all be there at the same time, but after 2 o'clock, we'll gather our review of them, do our scoring, and then meet the next day and see how that scoring went. Because then that give us time to contact the person, get a start date when they could start. It might be like Mr. Clint, only be able to attend the meeting, not really start writing or doing any ordinances at that time. But
And then Clint would be able to attend because your contract's not up till the 31st.
Yeah,
Correct.
my contract's up on the 31st.
So that would not be a special
20
increase in the
said the 29th, that's Good Friday.
Friday.
Good Friday.
It could be a good Friday.
No, it is Good Friday. Period. It is Good Friday.
What time did you say?
Time of day, that's up to y'all. I mean, we can make a time of day. And you said you will not be here, will?
I think that's easy.
Well, Rich, will you be in town?
Checking right.
Okay. Okay, so we have at least 3 of us here, I think that's a good day. All right, so maybe Mr. Jerry, I know it's kind of far away, maybe you can attend as well. What time of day would you like, Rich? What would be best for you?
Morning for me.
Morning's good for me. Morning, so we'll do a 9 a.m. And everybody's gonna come the day before, look at them and score. We're good? Will y'all be able to score? You able to go to score, you won't be able to score?
I don't really know about that. I got plans, but
Okay. Well, unfortunately, it does put us in a tight, but, I think that's a good resolution. Everybody feel good? Okay, I think we got a consensus, everybody.
Just one thing I know I'm on the table, could y'all get Mr. Clint to maybe go ahead and come up with an hourly rate in case you're gonna find somebody that if he has to stay?
Yeah, we'll
in
have
April.
discussions with, yeah, we can have
I
discussions.
mean, you could do it all in that meeting.
I think
We can have discussion between now and that last meeting. Yeah, absolutely. Give him an opportunity to think about. And like I said, even if we get, I mean, we will, I'm sure, get somebody to fill that position, we don't know what their time frame is on starting the position too, so that might be something we have to get a fill-in. We have to fill in for an hourly rate. Okay, good meeting. Mr. City Administrator, do you have anything? Almost forgot you.
I do, but I'll just cover some upcoming events that may be important to the citizens here and to the council. March 25th at 5 p.m. we got the Bay County League of Women Voters Candidate Forum. It's going to be here at the Public Works Building. March the 27th is going to be the next blood drive here in town. I'm bringing that up because at the last blood drive, about 90% of the people who donated were city employees. So I'd like to challenge the citizens to come out and maybe donate, try to challenge us in getting more people out donating blood. As I already mentioned earlier, April 2nd is the second visioning meeting. It's going to be located here at the Public Works Building. It's also at 5 p.m. And then March 30th, their Easter extravaganza under the Palms Park. That's going to be starting at 10 a.m. and last until it just ends. There's no set time frame there.
And is that supported by the sheriff department?
Yes.
And that's what time, I'm sorry?
10 a.m. is when it starts.
Okay.
And then on May the 3rd, the regional director for Senator Marco Rubio's Tallahassee office, Dan, I don't know how to say his last name, Pasch, P-A-A-S-C-H, but he's going to be holding mobile office hours at City Hall from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So if you've got anything you'd like to relay to him or Senator Rubio, again, that's going to be on May the 3rd at 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. And there's several other events coming up. We're working on a poster right now that we can post on social media so that everybody else knows. Other events are going on. There's 10 events between now and May the 3rd, so busy time of year.
And so all of that will be posted on the Mexico Beach Government Face page?
Yes, ma'am.
Facebook page.
Julie, I'm sure will work hard at that. She does a great job. Great job. Okay, I'm gonna say one last thing before we leave and adjourn. And it's more personal. I would like y'all to be in prayer for Mr. Welly as he goes through,
Great times.
his great times. We'll call him that.
Great times.
Okay, so please be in prayer for him and his family as they
So next meeting
travel
will be
and-
my last meeting that I'm here, so.
When?
Next meeting will be my last meeting.
So keep him in your prayers, keep him, his family, because I know that's stressful, a lot of traveling going on. So, all right. Anything else before we adjourn? Everybody good? Motion to adjourn.
So
Second? All right. Thank you, guys.
There you have it.
Oh, yeah, that's part of the